Back then, Zung was just an ordinary college student. In a flashback, one bully tells Zung he's not seen him in days and pins him to the wall. One other bully tells Zung to lend them some money so they'll let him off for today, especially since his dad's hospital bills are already in the tens of thousands, and a little won't make the difference. This annoys Zhang, but he doesn't say a word, so the bully gets annoyed that he doesn't reply to them. The bully asks him if his face is itching for a beating again, but a lady nearby suddenly asks them why they're extorting a pretty boy in broad daylight at school. The woman's name is Zhang Yayu, and she tells the boys they have some guts to bully one of her students. The other lady standing with her, Zhao Susu, says that she'd expel the boys if she was the one handling this. However, she tells them they might end up in a hospital if Miss Zhang steps in. Behind them, the present Super Raider is seen eating something as usual. One of the bullies whispers to their leader that they can't mess with Zhang Yayu because she used to run one of the school clubs, and her dad has some influence around here. The boys decide to split, but they promise to come back for Zhang. After they leave, Miss Zhang asks Zhang why he didn't just knock out these weaklings with one hand, and she reminds him that she's got his back if there's any trouble, so he won't take the fall. Susu replies that Zhang probably doesn't want to cause a scene because they'll try to milk him for medical fees if he hurts them. Eventually, Zhang tells Miss Jiang not to worry because he knows his limits, so he asks them if they wanted something from him. Susu tells him she was talking to Miss Jiang about something serious when Xie Siyue, the one eating, came to tell her that he was in trouble. Apparently, Siyue said she wasn't the one who saw him cornered, and Lin Yuting, the person who saw him, immediately runs over to ask him if he's hurt. Zhang thanks Yuting for calling them for help, and Yuting becomes red in the face that he thanked her and even patted her head. She's amazed by his gentleness and kindness and wishes she could always stay by his side. She tells him it's no big deal, and she blames those jerks for stealing the time she could have spent with Zhang. Eventually, Zhang thanks Yuting again, but she tells him not to be so polite, since they're hardcore teammates in the game. She says they have to keep playing Bio Wasteland together once he's gathered the money for his dad's treatment. Susu agrees with her that Abyss of the End is the ultimate dungeon, and they wouldn't make it through without him leading them. Susu suggests covering the medical payments he needs so he can pay her later. Zhang lightens up, but he suggests they talk about it another time because he's going to his part-time job presently. He says working part-time lets him earn money and improve himself, which is not so bad. Susu tries to stop him from leaving, but he tells them not to worry because he'll gather the money for his dad's surgery soon, and he tells them to focus on leveling up before he returns to the game. Eventually, Miss Jiang reminds Susu about how strong Zhang is. She asks her how she expects Zhang to pay her back if he accepts her offer of tens of thousands. Susu says she was just concerned about him, even though she had her selfish reasons too. She reminds them that the level of the account of someone named Rebellion Kid isn't high, but he has top-tier skills. If Zhang stays on the team, they'll definitely conquer Abyss of the End one day. Rebellion Kid is the top-ranked player in the entire server, and Susu believes that Zhang is on par with Rebellion Kid because of his understanding of the game. Miss Jiang mentions that Rebellion Kid solo cleared the Abyss of the End dungeon, and he's already a legend in the game. But Susu says her gut believes that Zhang is even stronger than him. Eventually, Susu tells the ladies that dinner is on her and tells them they have more dungeons to run after eating. That night, Zhang tells his mom that he'll get his paycheck tomorrow, and he'll be able to cover half of his dad's surgery cost if he combines it with what he saved. He asks her to get some rest and try to talk his dad into it when she visits. After his dad's accident, the other party paid some compensation, but it only covered a small portion of the surgery costs. So he's been working part-time to help, and with the help of some relatives, they've been able to gather about half the total cost. He hopes that things will feel less stressful once he can pay half the surgery costs the next day. He's been saving nearly half a year's salary, and he realizes he misses those times of fighting raid battles with everyone in the game. It's been so long since he logged in, so he decides to log in to check things out. When he starts the game, the system asks him if he'd like to log in with the account for the character level 25 Bone Warrior. He wonders if he should log in with his account since he turned down Susu today, so he decides to use his main account, his level 99 Rebellion Kid. When he gets in, he feels some nostalgia since he's not logged in since his dad's accident. He's currently at 999 strength and speed of 999. His main account is where he does his solo grind, but his alt account is for casual use, and he uses it to team up occasionally. Ever since he solo cleared Abyss of the End, he'd cause a commotion wherever he went, so he had no choice but to create an alt account. Later, he joined Jiang's small squad using the alternate account and rarely logged into his main. He figures that the girls will tear him apart if they find out he's actually Rebellion Kid. While going through his messages, he finds one about a challenge prepared just for him since he's a veteran player, with the option of earning gold coins that can be converted to cash that can be used in the real world. He wonders if this is a scam, but he figures that he'd be able to cover his dad's medical bills if it's true. He decides to try it out, and when he clicks the button, he suddenly gets transported somewhere and he doesn't know what's going on. Suddenly, he notices he's able to feel physical touch, which shouldn't be possible in a VR game. When he gets up, he realizes this is too realistic, and he wonders if he actually got transported into the game. When he looks at his body, he starts to freak out, and he wonders if he's a zombie. The system welcomes him to the ultimate hidden challenge. He's told that the mutant faction in the bio-wasteland is now facing an existential crisis, and they need his help. From now on, he's the Wasteland Zombie, a low-class rotting larva. He's currently level 1, with a strength of 7 and a speed of 22. Apparently, the New Human Revival Alliance is clearing the surface zones day and night without rest. Most of the mutant faction living on the surface has already been wiped out by the New Humans, and only the high-level mutant groups in the Abyss of the End remain relatively safe. Because the high-level mutants all act independently, their annihilation is also a matter of time if they don't unify them. In this desperate time, they recruited Zung to fight against the Human Revival Alliance and help the children of the Wasteland survive. Zung remembers that the mutant faction was just a bunch of man-eating monsters according to the original game settings, and it seems that they've had several updates to change character alignment during his time away. He figures that he's screwed if this game world is real and the character role has been reversed, since he's too weak to fight against powerful players. He decides to forget about leveling up or making money because he'd probably get one-shot the moment he runs into a player since he's too weak. Suddenly, the system informs him that regardless of the gap between him and the New Human Revival Alliance, he can level up and grow stronger as long as he can complete missions. He's also told that he cannot use the logout function until he's completely defeated the New Human Revival Alliance. That annoys Zung, since he's trapped, and waiting until then means his dad will be long gone before he can make the money. However, the system informs him that when he successfully saves the wasteland and returns to the original world, time will revert to the exact moment before he entered. Also, every power and reward he gains from saving the wasteland will remain with him. That intrigues Zung, so he considers that the bio-wasteland that he's in right now is no longer the virtual game world he knows. It seems he's been transported into a fully real wasteland world. Immediately, the game tells him his first mission is to defeat one giant reaver, so Zung almost passes out. The giant reaver is at level 32 and towers over him, so Zung protests that this is basically suicide. He also wonders why they want him to save the mutant faction while hunting them down, which means he's killing his kind. The game assures him that members of the mutant faction killed by him won't die, but they'll respawn after 24 hours. However, if they or him are killed by players, they're permanently gone. This allows the quest to be unaffected, but also allows him to farm the respawns without limit so he can level up and close the gap with the Human Revival Alliance. Zung asks what happens if the mutants hold a grudge and come back to gang up against him after they respawn. So he's told that the more times he defeats them, the more they submit to him because they'll acknowledge his strength. The system reminds him that this mission is extremely dangerous, but he'll gain massive rewards if he completes it. He's asked if he'll accept the mission or let the system delete his existence permanently if he doesn't want to. Zung recalls that his dad's surgery is around the corner, and he can make the money for that here. Since he's already a veteran player, this challenge makes him excited, so he decides to take the mission. The system tells him to go forth, and Zung realizes this mission was designed to screw him over from the start since they won't even tell him where he is. He decides to look around, and he notices he's in some kind of abandoned building, which means he's in the city area. Even though he's logged in during nighttime, which is when players are running dungeons en masse, he hasn't noticed any activity nearby, which means he's either in an obsolete low-level dungeon or a high-level zone that most players haven't cleared yet. Because of how damp the soil is, he figures that you can't find that in the dry, scorched surface of the wasteland. He guesses that he's deep underground in an abandoned city in the Abyss of the End. He knows high-level reavers should be located near the entrance to the Abyss of the End. The Abyss of the End was originally a network of underground shelters built by human survivors after the apocalypse. Their technology was incredibly advanced, but when war broke out between humans and mutants, those shelters suffered catastrophic damage. Eventually, the survivors fled to the human surface with the New Human Revival Alliance to rebuild, and the shelter network became the nesting ground of the mutant faction. The mutant law of survival is survival of the fittest, so Zeng knows that any mutant that has lasted this long in the shelter is very strong. For example, high-level reavers are distributed in the entrance zone of the Abyss, especially in Silent City. Even these entrance zone mutants are several times stronger than top-tier monsters in other regions, and this place is a hell mode for players, especially because of the environmental debuffs here. Based on Zung's past gameplay, he knows the number of monsters that spawn in this area is very high, so he needs to stay extra alert. He picks up a street vendor folding stool that has a +5 attack power, and he tries to look around to avoid stepping on traps. He cleared this place before with top gear, but this time he knows he'll be killed if he makes one mistake. Suddenly, he runs into something that looks like a monster dog. He realizes the gods of luck are not on his side, so he has no choice but to play along. Sometime later, a female Reaver that's at level 55 faces another female stalker at level 49, with slightly lower strength and speed. Nearby, Tsung hides close to a wall, and he's surprised because he's only seen male versions of Reavers and Stalkers in the game, so he wonders if it's a recent update. He identifies the Reaver as his target, but he wonders why they're fighting over territory. In the game, Reavers just followed a basic programmed patrol route, but this one seems to be observing its surroundings to find intruders. This means the AI has gotten smarter, or maybe it's not an AI, but it's conscious. Tsung realizes she's not just busy, but she's more dangerous than anything he's faced before. As the Reaver stabs the Stalker from behind, he considers taking advantage of the present situation to outsmart her. The Reaver soon takes down the Stalker, but she soon feels a small stone tap her chest, and she sees Tsung tell her to come get him. Behind Tsung, he has a cyber mine bike he found in the alleyway with a speed of plus 20. The Reaver roars at him, and she starts extending her tentacles to impale him. His initial plan was to speed up with the mini-bike and weave through the alleyways, but she's chasing like a maniac. Even though he has the speed advantage, she's very huge, so his speed advantage isn't enough. Regardless, Tsung knows he wants her close so he doesn't lose her. He plans to keep her on his tail for a little longer before doing what he planned. When he gets to the place, he runs past a trap and lets her step on it. When she does so, the ground beneath her implodes, and she falls into it. One of the reasons this dungeon is so hard is because seemingly safe spots often hide lethal traps. Back in the day, Tsung got screwed over so many times by these traps, so he knows where they all are. The trap the Reaver fell into turns out to be a nest trap in the Hive Valley. It's a nest of swarming mutant paralysis wasps that hunt around. Among elite monsters, the paralysis wasps have low HP and defense, but their strength lies in their numbers. Each hive houses hundreds of them, and their venom carries a paralytic effect that reduces the speed of the target. If you can't crush them quickly in one strike, they'll wear you down over time. Tsung becomes grateful that the Reaver has a mind of her own, and there's been some changes to the game, because he wouldn't have been able to lure her otherwise. Soon after, the wasps start stinging the Reaver. Tsung realizes he got lucky, but he also knows that Reavers have high HP and defense, so this trap won't be enough to finish her off. Inside the trap, she starts fighting several of the wasps. Tsung estimates that by the time she struggles her way out, the paralysis wasps would have drained at least half of her HP. Sometime later, she gets out with just 100 GP left, so Tsung goes to the next step, which is to release the hounds. When he whistles, some dogs come out and Tsung jumps on them, and Tsung directs the dog to slash her, taking out 99 GP with one hit. Eventually, she's left with just 1 HP, so Tsung jumps in with his stool and smashes it on her head, taking her down completely. The dogs he uses are Shiba Inu pups at level 10. Tsung commends the dog Wangzai for doing a good job, and he suggests they look out for each other from now on in the game. According to the Wasteland mechanics, zombies and zombie dogs share a high level of bond just like humans share with natural dogs. He soon starts to pet the dog, and he's glad he has the pups on his side because he wouldn't have been able to take down the Reaver otherwise. Suddenly, he levels up. The system grants him a reward and congratulates him for defeating the Reaver. He levels up from a zombie larva to a juvenile zombie at level 10. His strength goes from 7 to 51, his speed goes to 25 from 22, and he gains a beginner special skill called Psychic Shapeshift. Tsung feels a surge of strength, but he wonders what this Psychic Shapeshift skill is. The system informs him that he's received the Reaver Tentacle Skewer, which he can swallow to trigger a surprise. He's also earned 5,000 gold coins that can be used to buy gear from human city-state stores, purchase materials for base building, or be exchanged for real-world currency. Apparently, after defeating the Reaver, her affection towards him has also reached 100%, so she will obey any command he gives. That freaks Tsung out, and he wonders what the game means by any command. However, he's more concerned about the gold coins, and he learns that each coin equals 1 yuan in the real world. This makes Tsung certain he can gather the surgery money in no time. He also wonders what the system meant by building a base, so the system informs him that base construction is the next hidden reward he's about to receive. He's suddenly granted a secret base called Hope Citadel, which the system teleports them to. He and Wangzai land on their heads, but Tsung is shocked by what he sees, and he wonders if this is the legendary Hope Citadel. Apparently, this game has an incredibly detailed world-building system and a ton of history. Among all the entries, Hope Citadel is the most legendary name. According to the lore, after the world was reduced to a wasteland, the surviving humans built underground shelters and began constructing Hope Citadel. Eventually, the researchers created a gene serum that could purge the virus and restore the consciousness of mutated beings. But before they could complete the cure, a war broke out and the last few survivors were wiped out in the crossfire. The City of Hope was also abandoned, while the various underground shelter areas became lairs inhabited by the strongest monsters, forming the final dungeon, the Abyss of the End. Years later, mankind rebuilt its settlement on the surface, and that surface is now known as New Eden, the main city for players in the game. Zung only knew about the Hope Citadel from the lore because he never found it during his previous runs. The system soon informs Zung that the Hope Citadel was hidden away by the system's emergency protection protocol after the fallout of the shelter, but it's now given to him as his beginner refuge because neither mutants nor the new human alliance can enter this place. As he completes more missions and increases his level, the facilities and features of Hope Citadel will gradually unlock. The system tells him that his next goal is to build up this citadel by completing quests, collecting materials, and upgrading structures. In time, it will become the ultimate stronghold for all Wasteland inhabitants under his leadership. Zung's also told that the final reward for the completed mission is inside, and the system says it hopes Zung likes it. Curious, Zung decides to find out what the reward is. He also notices that Wang Zai seems to have picked up a scent he likes because he's not stopped sniffing since they got there. When Zung sees the reward, he can't believe his eyes because it seems to be a zombie girl. With a smile on his face, Zung calls the system rotten and asks if it has no shame at all. Somewhere else, Siyu freshens up and goes to her bed that's filled with junk food. She soon puts on her VR glasses to log into the game and is summoned into her account where she's level 24 with a strength of 100 and a speed of 18. She soon appears in New Eden and goes into a store. She realizes she misses the days when Zung was there, when they'd be eating together because he usually has a lot of coins to buy food. As she admires some of the food, a prompt appears and asks her if she wants to enjoy the real-life experience of exclusive in-game food. The system invites her to try out the new version completely free of charge. However, she doesn't know that the prompt was generated by Zung. Out of the four ladies, he knows that Siyue is the best to trick because she loves food. The reason he had to trick her is something that happened 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, Zung asked the system how he could use this zombie girl reward, so he was told that the female zombie body is just a mindless shell. Apparently, he'd have to invite a player from the game to log in and take control of the body to use it in-game. As long as he has the supercomputer there, he can send invitations to players in the game. However, the invited player must complete the final mission to rescue the mutants before they can log out of the game. The system immediately issues him a mission to invite one player to join the mutant army, and Zung becomes angry because he's cool with being stuck here for his dad's bill, but he can't drag someone else here with him. The game assures him there's no need to worry because once they enter the game, their bodies in the real world will continue functioning based on their original consciousness. Their actual consciousness will just be transferred into the game to control the mutant character. Once the mission is completed, they'll both return to the exact point in time when they entered the game. That makes Zung calm down, and he realizes the system is more humane than expected. Amused, the system adds that what's more humane is the reward, because if they reach the mature stage, they'll be able to build a zombie army together, which is amazing. Zung immediately tells the system to cool off before it makes this comic R-rated. He wonders how to get Sio to lower her guard and accept, since just luring her with food won't work. He considers telling her she can earn money, but he soon gets a notification that she's accepted, and he's surprised that food worked on her. Immediately, the game links her consciousness to that of the zombie girl, and she's released in the pod. Here, she's a female zombie child at level 10 with a strength of 60 and a speed of 20. Sio notices that it all feels so real because she can sense the temperature, the air, and everything like the real world. Zung welcomes her, but she flips when she realizes the person speaking is a mutant. She rushes at Zung and tries to attack him, but he jumps out of the way. When she attacks again, he dodges again, so she jumps back to create some distance. She's surprised that he's so fast, but she doesn't relent and leaps towards him to attack again. Before she can attack him, he tells her to wait, and he shapeshifts his hand into a shield, blocking her attack. The impact launches her backward. The system congratulates Zung for unlocking the will-based transformation skill, and he's told he can use his willpower to morph his body into any desired shape as long as he stays mentally focused. At the beginner level, he can only transform his hands, but he can use other body parts and forms as his level increases. This intrigues Zeng because he can turn his arm into a shield or a weapon. He immediately turns his hand into a sword and tells her to take a good look at herself first. When Sio turns around at the glass behind her, she realizes she's now a zombie. Zung welcomes Sio to the mutant clan, and he explains that this is the legendary Citadel of Hope that he's not conquered, which will now be the base of the mutant army, and she'll be the first member of this base. Eventually, Zung explains all the rules to Sio, and even paints a tragic picture of the mutant clan's suffering. He gave her a goal to help him save the mutant clan, and she became immersed in the game's story. The key way he achieved that was to promise her free meals and a place to stay if she joined the mutants, and it worked. The system tells Zung he's successfully tricked a player into joining the mutant army, and he's given 2,000 gold, as well as some equipment, which is basically a schoolgirl, maid, and bunny girl outfit. His new quest is to get the female zombie to wear one of the outfits, which makes Zung cringe. The system tells him not to get the wrong idea because the outfits boost combat power, but Zung doesn't trust the system. However, since he has no choice, he gives her the schoolgirl outfit and she puts it on. When she puts it on, her strength increases by 10 and her speed increases by 3. After that, the system gives him 5 gold coins for completing that quest. He's also told her affection for him has increased by 15%, and he's told getting it to 100% unlocks the fusion skill. Zung becomes riled up that he was given $5, and he says he couldn't care less about the fusion skill. Suddenly, Siyue's stomach begins to growl, and she mentions that the hunger feels so real. Zung immediately prepares some raider tentacle skewers, and Siyue's mouth starts to water because of how good it smells. She thanks him and starts to eat, not even considering that he may want to eat some. Suddenly, 2 tentacles grow out of Siyue's back, and the system explains that after eating the raider tentacle skewers, she's evolved into a teen female zombie and has gained a special ability called Tentacle Strike. Her level has increased to level 15, her strength has reached 100, and her speed has reached 13. She starts to panic, but Zung simply wonders if all zombies can acquire skills by eating the right kind of food. The system confirms that, but says regular zombies can only gain power by directly biting raw flesh from prey, but the absorption takes time. However, because Siyue's body has a special constitution, and because the food she ate was a quest reward, her evolution is way faster. Zung is also told that he's more unique because he can take whatever he kills. Zung realizes that he would have had a bite if he had known, but now he can't. Oddly, the system informs him that he's received a beginner blind box that can randomly contain an item, attribute boost, or skill because he helped the female zombie level up. He's also told Siyue's evolution has triggered a new quest, which is to lead her to take control of a zombie next and defeat the current lord to become the new lord. Zung laments that he's still hungry, but he doesn't want to miss out on the chance of earning money by leaving this quest. Zung decides to tell Siyue about the new quest, so they head there. One day later, they reach the border between the Forest of Thorns and the Silent City. There aren't many zombie clans in the Abyss of the End because zombies are of the weaker race and can only hide in the border zones between forests and cities. On the southern side of the Silent City, where the Forest of Thorns is, there are several mutated animal zombies. However, zombie animals rarely enter the ruins, so the border is relatively safer, and it's a good place to find food or rotting meat left behind from animal kills. As of this point, Zung and Siyue have infiltrated the inner ranks of the zombie clan, but the zombie groups in this world seem very different from the ones in typical post-apocalyptic games. Presently, they're all being ordered to line up for food, and they're told there will be no more food once mealtime is over. Normally, zombies only swarm when it's time to eat and they lack intelligence. This group seems to have high intelligence and strict management. They organize hunts around the forest and distribute food according to a set of rules. For example, young zombies who don't participate still receive food rations daily. They even capture human women to provide nutrition for the zombie young, but Zung wonders why they use human women. He heard that the woman being milked used to be a human researcher who killed many zombies under the pretext of running experiments, so they may be torturing her as revenge. When it's Zung's turn, he gets some of the milk, and the system informs him that he's gained human nutrition and increased intelligence. He immediately realizes this is the reason the zombies here are smart. Suddenly, he's grabbed by a zombie woman who tells him he's already a teenage zombie and he's in the wrong line. Zung realizes she must be of pretty high status, and he figures she's not really hostile, but she's just trying to maintain order to grow the clan. Meanwhile, Siyue, who's already received today's meat ration, joins the line again. Suddenly an announcement is made that the Lord is back. It turns out to be a female zombie, called Zombie Lord S01. Zung asks the system why he can't see the level and information of the zombies that just arrived, so he's told he can only view status panels for monsters defined by the official settings of the Bio Wasteland game and the players he invites. However, these zombies are native beings that exist in this world. Zung realizes this world is entirely different from the original game, and he figures that they might have a chance as long as they can unite and dominate all mutant clans. Zung figures that the female zombies that came in with the Lord aren't low level, and it won't be easy to take over the Lord. He also finds it weird that they have number markings on their chests. The system explains that the background of these zombies goes back to the genetic experiments of the Citadel of Hope. After humans established the Citadel of Hope, they built a genetics lab. The original purpose of the lab was to find a way to suppress biological mutations and return them to normal. However, the research didn't go well, and the zombies that were injected with the genetic serum became more violent, and their mutations accelerated. The researchers believed it was because the male zombies carried excess hyperandrogens in the virus, so they focused on the females. So they had to number all of them to track each subject. The experiment on the female zombies was extremely cruel, and even though the research failed, it accidentally produced a super serum. Humans injected with the super serum became immune to the zombie virus, stronger and faster. It was at this point humanity turned their focus from saving mutated beings to defeating them. They began to select elite humans to inject with the super serum to make them the new humans. The first wave of new humans began hunting more mutant creatures to create more serums, but they didn't realize that the first female zombie injected with the super serum had started to change. The first female, labeled S00, was the first to evolve intelligence, which made her remember all they did to her. This caused rage and a deep genetic explosion within her that caused her experimental genes to evolve drastically. In her berserk state, she led the other zombies to break out of the lab, and the others began awakening during the escape. To respond to the emergency, the new humans rushed to the lab. For new humans, killing ordinary evolved zombies was easy, but for these advanced zombies, they were no match, and they were brutally killed. S00 led the intelligent zombies and other mutant clans to destroy the Citadel of Hope, and they drove out the humans. Since then, S00 has never been seen again, and the powerful zombies continued ruling. Zung mulls over the information, and he's glad because he feels he has an upper hand. Suddenly, the zombie lord approaches him and says he looks unfamiliar, and she also questions his creepy smirk. She asks if he's a spy from the human side and considers digging his eye out, but she's suddenly stopped by Siue. The lord is amused that Siue is protecting her comrade, and she agrees because the mutant clans should be brave and united. However, she wonders how a lowly zombie like Siue evolved to have a raider skill. Eventually, the lord commends the previous female zombie, Li Ying, for doing a good job with feeding the clan to help boost their intelligence. Because of that, the lord tells Ying to arrange the next round of survival training. Zung realizes that Siue is reliable, and she stepped in when needed. He wonders what the survival training is about, so another zombie girl tells him it's when they let young zombies who have reached a certain growth phase form their own teams of 3 zombies and survive in the Forest of Thorns for 1 month. Only those who return alive can stay in the nest. Zung recalls from the game that the mutated beasts in the Forest of Thorns are extremely powerful, which means surviving there will be hell difficulty. Meanwhile, Ying asks the Lord if this isn't too soon, and offers to train the kids a bit more since only 1/10 returned alive the last time. However, the Lord asks her if she's trying to teach her how to do her job, so Ying concedes. The Lord explains that it's only a matter of time before the new humans come back, so they need to grow faster. She says being captured by new humans is truly a fate worse than being killed in survival training. Meanwhile, some humans somewhere sense that Dr. Chin, the woman being milked, has been blindfolded by the zombies. This guy is a Ghost Eye sniper at level 34, and he's the lord of the Ghost Eye Alliance of the New Human Army. He figures that the zombies are too cunning because even though he has a shared vision skill, he can't see anything through the cracks. He complains that Dr. Chin turned out to be a wasted pawn. Meanwhile, a lady named Bloodthirsty Electric Blade at level 36, the lord of the Bloodlust Paradise faction, mentions that zombies seem to be evolving the fastest among the mutant clans. She says they need to learn why, and she suggests the Bloodlust Paradise needs to take over the investigation. This annoys the sniper who attempts to start a fight. The lady decides to fight to have fun too, but some other man stops them. He's Iron Max X at level 39 and the lord of the Iron Science faction. Iron Max X reminds them of the price they paid to qualify for this real game world, and he reminds them they'll be wiped out in this world if they don't work together and complete the final mission, because dying here means being gone forever. Meanwhile, the rebellious one, at level 99, the new human hunter commander, says that Iron Max is right. He says that conquering this fascinating world is the true reason they crossed over into this place. Zung notices someone activating the Ghost Eye Lord's shared vision skill on the captive woman, so he guesses she might also be a player. However, he wonders why a player can get pregnant, since that's not a feature in the game. He also wonders why she didn't log off, but he concludes that she'll be useful to him. After the Lord left, the zombies of similar age were driven out to separate zones. They're congratulated on qualifying for survival training, and Ying explains the rules and tells them to listen closely if they want to make it back alive. Apparently, the survival training will take place in the Forest of Thorns and will last 1 month. During this time, they must survive and learn to hunt. Anyone who survives a full month may return, and they're told hiding is their top priority to survive, not attacking. If they must hunt, they're advised to work in small teams and not all together, so they don't make it easier for monsters to take them all at once. The deeper they go into the forest, the stronger the monsters become, so she advises them to explore the outskirts and move in gradually. The last warning she gives them is to never go to the center of the forest. They soon head out, and Zung concludes that they're sending them to die since they didn't teach them a single survival skill. One other guy agrees because he heard only one out of dozens of zombies in the last round of training came back alive, startling them. Cautious, Zhang asks who he is, so the guy introduces himself as Xiao Li, and he says he trained a little in martial arts before turning into a zombie. He adds that he noticed that they sneaked in from outside, so he wants to team up with them because they're not ordinary. Zhang disagrees and says they're antisocial. The reason is that more zombies mean more mouths to feed, and Siyue alone barely has enough food. Li says he knows what Zhang is worried about, and he tells him that he's also awakened an ability too, so Zhang reconsiders, since he'll be a good addition to their team. He welcomes Li to the team, but reminds him that he'll have to follow his lead. Later on, Li asks what their names are, so Zhang says names don't matter as much as staying alive. However, Li says that's not exactly true since they're technically half dead. Shortly after, the system congratulates Zhang for making a zombie friend and gives him 250 gold coins, which excites him. Meanwhile, in the Forest of Thorns Area 1, a female zombie clings to someone named Brother Jia Hui because she's scared. However, Hui acts as the macho man with the ladies and says they'll be safe as long as they stick to the edges of the forest. Suddenly, Hui and the two ladies are snatched by a mutated toadback flower frog with multiple tongues. Deng knows from his experience of clearing Area 1 of the Forest of Thorns that many dangerous creatures lurk in the outer areas so they can hunt easily, and many inexperienced zombies get killed in the forest's outer edges. The monster soon eats up those jokers, and Zhang remembers that Area 1 is the feeding ground for mutated beasts and is full of ambushes. Area 2 of the forest is the nesting zone of the mutated beasts, and any invader is hunted down without mercy. While they're there, Siyue steals the eggs of a mutated electric viper to eat, and Zhang asks her to give them back while it chases them. Area 3 is relatively the safest zone because Area 4 and 5 are ruled by king-level mutated beasts whom the other beasts avoid. The group soon reaches Area 3. The king-level beasts are led by the legendary King of Thorns, which is also how the forest got its name. Even on Zhang's main account, he never encountered that monster. Shortly after, they have some fruits. Area 3 has shorter vegetation, so only small-sized, low-tier mutated beasts hide here to avoid stronger ones in Areas 1, 2, 4, and 5. After resting for a day, they started hunting some small mutated creatures for practice. Li takes down a mutated giant rat, Siyue takes down a mutated piranha, while Zhang takes out a mutated porcupine. After they do all this, Zhang's system rewards him with 1,000 coins for the team's success. He also gets food rewards that include spicy stir-fried rat meat, sweet and sour piranha, and deep-fried porcupine steak. His mental attribute also gains the spike attribute. After the warm-up, they began coordinating to hunt larger mutated monsters. With solid teamwork, they went out and finally took down the mutated giant bear ape. After doing that, Zhang gets 600 gold coins, and they get a food reward of thorn ape stew. His mental morphing also gains the giantification attribute. Next up, the three of them kept teaming up to farm monsters until sunset. They don't head out during nighttime because it's too dangerous. After a bountiful hunt, Li praises Zhang's cooking skills and asks him how he keeps whipping up dishes like this on the fly. Thanks to the accumulated battle experience and stat boosts from the food, Siyue evolves again. Her body changes significantly, and her tentacles have become more terrifying. Li also shows visible evolution after eating the food. His physique became more robust, and his destructive power has jumped up a tier. Zhang also feels that his power has improved quite a bit. At this point, he's obtained 15,000 gold coins, a blind box, and the elasticity attribute to his mental morphing skill. He wonders why he can't see his level and stats number anymore, so the system explains that levels and stats were just elements from the game, but now that Zhang is adapting to the game, the information no longer appears. The system explains that this world isn't governed by levels, and those metrics no longer hold meaning for him. Zhang realizes that in this world he's free to evolve without being limited by levels, which means skills will become more important from now on. Although he's been able to test his spike attribute, he still doesn't know what the giantification and the elasticity attributes do. Suddenly he gets a new task to solo kill a mutated flame tiger before dawn. He's told that the nighttime is when the forest is most dangerous because most of the large mutated beasts are nocturnal hunters. Zhang realizes the stupid system is trying to get him killed, but he decides to go kill the tiger while testing out the new skills he got. Luckily, he's already memorized the terrain of the forest from their daytime monster hunting. Zhang remembers that he once encountered the flame tiger while farming dungeons, but he avoided provoking it so he could complete the quest. This time, he notices this one is quite big because it's about twice the size of the first one he saw. Suddenly, the tiger spots him and tries to crush him on the spot, but he latches onto a rock and jumps out of the way. This won't be easy because the tiger's reaction speed is faster, and when Zhang jumps back to attack it, the monster blocks the attack with its hand. Both of them meet face to face, and Zhang realizes the tiger's hide is too thick and he can't cut through. He considers trying another move and leaps into the air towards the monster. As the flame tiger reaches out to catch him midair, he slashes its hand, causing a huge release of flames. After the smoke clears up, Zhang is glad that the attack worked because he's been able to injure the monster's hand. Suddenly, the tiger's hand completely heals, and it reaches for Zhang again, who realizes he's cooked because the tiger's regeneration is way too fast. Before the monster can smash him into the ground, he blocks it by transforming his hand into a shield and remembers he still has one move up his sleeve. He transforms his second hand into a cannon blaster using his elasticity attribute, then blasts it into the monster's chest, killing it immediately. The system immediately grants him 3,000 gold coins for defeating the monster. It also grants him 2 blind boxes, as well as a skill reward called Beast Tongue that allows him to communicate with and understand all mutated beasts. He also gains the flame attribute to his mental morphing skill. After the tiger's corpse crashes, Zhang is shocked when he hears a loud noise behind him. Behind him, he spots a mutated ice tiger, a mutated thunder tiger, and a mutated Vajra tiger who asks if it was this little zombie who killed Little Tiger. Because he can understand their language, Zhang hears a cry for vengeance. Suddenly, the Vajra tiger is hit by a flame blast and is knocked to the ground in pain, causing the others to panic. They rush to save him by putting out the fire, but Zhang isn't going to let them off the hook because of all the gold he can get from burning them. With his cannon launcher in hand, the thunder and ice tigers rush towards him to finish him off. Before they can reach the ground, Zhang sticks his morphed hand into the ground and pulls out a piece of the earth right underneath him and throws it at the tigers. They break through it with sheer strength, but they're surprised by what they encounter once they break through. Zhang smirks because he had pulled away the ground to expose the magma that's burning underground. Both tigers land in the magma, and Zhang receives a 10,000 coin reward, as well as a special reward called the Crown of the Tiger King with unknown effects. He also receives 3 more blind boxes, and he gains the ice, metal, and thunder attributes to his mental morphing. 1 month later, Ying and the other advanced zombies come to look for the zombies they sent out, and Ying becomes worried that a single one of them didn't survive. S01 mentions that she had some hopes for those 2 little zombie brats, referring to Siyue and Zheng, but she concludes she was wrong. Suddenly, one of them senses a presence coming from deep within the forest. Ying asks if it's a zombie, and Yu replies that it feels like a zombie, but zombies can't have such an overwhelming aura. Yu says the presence feels like a stampede of beasts, enough to paralyze with fear, and the Lord decides to trust Yu's senses because she's usually correct. However, she wonders what the thing could be that startled Yu, who is usually calm. They soon notice movement from the forest, and they see some huge beasts emerge. The beasts are the Thorn King and the mutated Thorn Dragon, and the group notices that the beasts are heading toward a certain direction. The Lord is shocked when she realizes the monsters are escorting their new king back home. She wonders how on earth these guys were able to pull this off. The Lord is amazed by Zheng's potential, especially because he was able to tame the mutated Thorn Dragon in just 1 month. She flies into the air to test what Zheng is made of. Meanwhile, Li wonders why the Lord is charging at Zheng. Li decides to see if he can hold his ground against her after 1 month of grinding, so he leaps into the air to use his heavy cannon fist move. The Lord is amazed by how good he's gotten in just 1 month, but she dodges his attack easily and knocks him into the ground from behind. After he falls to the ground, Siyue follows suit and leaps at the Lord to attack. Siyue charges at the Lord, but she blocks it with her own tentacles. She admits that Siyue is stronger than the last guy, and she's also fast, but Siyue becomes further enraged that she hurt her comrade, so she blasts the Lord with beams from her tentacles. The Lord protects herself, using her wings, and when she doesn't open up after the attack, Siyue becomes confused and tries biting the shell to get it to open, to no avail. Suddenly, the Lord bursts out of the covering and says it's a shame that Siyue has no tactics. She activates her hypnotic sound wave and captivates Siyue, then tells her she'll be ridiculously strong one day, but she'll have to go to sleep for now. After Siyue passes out, the Lord turns her attention to Zheng, and she tells him she wasn't too hard on his teammates. She tells him he can go all out since the others won't interrupt them now, so Zheng tells her not to hold back on him and to use everything she's got. The Lord suggests they change location, and when she flies off, Zheng jumps into the air and goes after her. Meanwhile, the other female zombies on the ground are surprised by how fast Zheng is moving because their eyes can barely keep up. Zheng and the Lord clash in the air with great force, and they finally land on the ground. Eventually, the Lord says it's time for them to end the warm-up they've been having and get serious. She activates her Hell Demon Seal and transforms using the power of the night. She turns into a giant-sized zombie, triggering a huge explosion around her. She believes Zheng has potential, but he won't listen unless they beat it into him. When she tries to crush him, she's surprised when he holds back her punch with one hand, even though he's much smaller than she is. Zheng tells her she's mistaken and kicks her in the face in the blink of an eye, knocking her backwards. He explains that he's not here to become someone's protege, and he tells her he's here to lead her, not support her. He activates the power of the dragon and uses the armor form of the Thorn Dragon King. He offers to show her the result of his full month of hard work and releases a dragon's roar that petrifies the Lord. She's surprised because Zeng is using the power of the Thorn Behemoth Dragon, and she wonders how he's able to use it too. The impact of his attack causes her to lose her giant form, and she returns back to her normal size. She's shocked that she lost the fight, so Zeng tells her she'll be terrifying in the future, but for now, he'll make her one of his commanders. She becomes angry and says she only let her guard down, so Zeng explains that he used 1/10 of his strength to beat her, but her remaining energy isn't even enough to maintain her fake form. She becomes stunned by that statement and realizes he knows her secret. Apparently she's much smaller inside, but the bigger form is a blown-up one. At this point, Zeng has 350,000 coins, and he's also gotten the King of Thorns skill that allows him to summon mutated creatures from the Thorn Forest. He also has the power of the dragon, which provides the armor and abilities of the mutated Thorn Behemoth Dragon. Zeng picks her up when she reduces to her normal size and tells her she doesn't need to know how he knows her secret. Confused, she wonders if this guy is a magic corpse. In a flashback to the past, the original zombie that released the others from the prison told the present Lord, Xiao Fu, that she's leaving everyone in her care. She tells Fu to fight for the others, but Fu tells Ling, the first advanced zombie, that she can't do this alone. Ling explains that there's something important that she has to take care of, and she tells Fu to believe in herself because she's the new leader. So she doesn't let Ling down. Fu has led the horde and has escaped human raids for years. However, with this guy in charge, she hopes that the zombie horde might actually have a shot at striking back since he's much stronger than she is. She immediately bows to Zeng and asks him to lead them, referring to him as Lord. Immediately, the system congratulates Zeng for defeating the zombie nest leader and gives him 10,000 coins. Zeng pats Fu on the head and promises to lead everyone and help them survive. Suddenly, Fu asks him why he challenged the mutated Thorn Dragon Beast and asks how he beat it. And Zeng remembers that it was because the stupid system set him up again. After he beat the tiger's family, he got some serious stats and more blind boxes. He soon triggered a hidden quest to defeat the mutated Thorn Dragon Beast in one day, and Zeng concluded that the system wanted him dead. To finish the mission, he opened all 6 blind boxes at once and got lucky enough to pull out 6 clone cards. A clone card allows him to duplicate himself and grants his clone about 80% of his power, but the whole thing only lasts 2 hours. If it was just him fighting alone, he would be dead by now. But 7 of him was enough to do the job. He basically worked with himself to overwhelm the dragon, and that's when Siyu joined in to provide fire support. At the point when the dragon was barely clinging to life, the clones hit their limits and Zeng realized he was cooked. Luckily, Li showed up to offer support, so Zeng launched him at the monster to land the final blow. After the dragon beast was taken down, Zeng received 70,000 gold coins as a reward and got the King of Thorns dragon power. When that happened, Zeng told the Dragon Thorn that he's still the king of the forest, but he just needs its support until he defeats the new humans. In the present, Zeng just tells Fu that he and the dragon beast hit it off and became friends because she wouldn't even believe it if he told her the truth. Meanwhile, at the base, a huge zombie feeds his pet zombie bird named Xiaolu. Suddenly, the roof above them breaks, and some women jump in. One of them blows up the zombie's head, and the bird runs away to notify the others that the new humans have infiltrated the base. The ladies start taking down zombie after zombie, and the squad leader calls the zombies pathetic. The other ladies behind her caution that they shouldn't let their guard down because there are some high-level zombies here who have awakened abilities. They decide to hurry since their mission here is to eliminate the infected undercover agent. Suddenly, a huge hand grabs the 2 ladies behind, surprising the squad leader. A huge zombie appears, and the squad leader can't believe that there's such a huge zombie in the base. The zombie bird mocks her and says that the huge zombie, Old Wang, has the ability called gigantification. Wang tosses both ladies in his mouth, and he reaches out to the leader to also have her as a snack. Before he can grab her, she jumps out of the way. She realizes that tech weapons don't do much to the zombie, so she decides to activate her new human ability. Her ability grants her amazing speed, and she uses a skill called Gale Step Mirage to twist Wang around himself. She soon approaches the pregnant scientist who asks who's there. When she gets close, the squad leader speaks, and the scientist rejoices when she recognizes her voice, referring to her as Wing Shadow. However, Wing Shadow apologizes and says Ghost Eye already gave the order to wipe out the nest and kill her. She tells the scientist to blame herself for carrying a zombie baby. Shocked, the scientist tries to stop her and asks her to listen, but she doesn't, and she fires the bullet. However, it's not the scientist's head that is blown to bits, but Wing Shadow's arm. She's shocked when her arm falls off, and it turns out to be Li who's excited to test out his new skills on her. Li jumps forward to slash her with his sword, but she manages to jump out of the way and dodge the rest of his attacks. Lee admits that she's pretty fast, and he tells her to use up all her tricks because she won't get another chance. Wing Shadow is shocked that zombies here have evolved to be able to speak fluently, but she surrounds him with her gale, certain she can still crush him regardless since he's just a zombie. As she tries to run circles around him, he knocks her off her feet with a huge rocky hand, and the dragon behind him gobbles her up. After that, Lee mentions that the hostage scientist is the reason they lost so many people, so he considers feeding her to the dragon as a bonus. However, Zung tells Lee to leave this one to him, and he tells him to gather the surviving mutants in the nest and wait for his signal. Zung releases the woman from her chains, and she begs him to kill her already, but Zung tells her it'll be too kind to kill her since she'll just respond since she's a player. His statement shocks the woman, and she wonders how he knows about players since he's a mutant. She mentions that it seems he doesn't know what the current game world has become. So Zung asks her what she means by that. Since she's dying already, she decides there's no harm in telling him. She explains that they're players who received invitations to experience the real version of the game, but they were locked in and unable to go back the moment they became characters. She explains that dying in this world actually means dying for real. Zung is intrigued that the other players were invited too, but he wonders why he was the only one who became a zombie. Confused, he asks her what's wrong with her stomach, so she says it's all because of a scumbag. Apparently, she was originally a PhD student in bioengineering at Qingbei University, but she couldn't graduate because her dissertation kept failing. When she got home, she got bored and played Bio Wasteland to kill time, and that is where she met someone named Thunderfire. He started running dungeons with her daily, and they eventually became in-game lovers. One day, he suddenly sent her a system invite to enjoy the full immersive experience of the game. She decided to start it, but that was the start of a nightmare. At first, she was fascinated by how real everything was. Then she and Thunderfire became lovers in this real world too. Apparently, Thunderfire recommended her to help the New Human Revival Alliance develop a biological evolution serum. She didn't expect the game world's tech to be more advanced than that of the real world, and over time her research began to show good results. However, she later found out that Thunderfire was secretly locking lips with another player, but she was already pregnant with his child as of the time. To get rid of her, the scumbag set her up during a mission, and she fell into a mutant trap. He planned to use her as a host to share vision with the Ghost Eye Lord, but she already blinded herself. To cover up everything he did, he ordered that the nest be wiped out and ordered the players to come kill her too. She begins to cry and says being killed is the best release for her, but Zung tells her that the person who hurt her won't feel any regret if she dies, so the best thing she can do is to make him pay. He offers to give her the chance to take revenge instead of killing herself. Later, Zung gathers the entire mutant horde to himself and explains that the nest is no longer safe, especially since the new humans are no longer relying on tech, but are evolving stronger skills. He shows them a portal back to the Citadel of Hope that's guarded by the mutated beasts of the Thorn Forest, and he says they need to take some time to build Hope Citadel into their final stronghold. He promises to lead the mutant army and defeat the new humans, and they cheer him on. Once they go through the portal, Zung tells Fu to get everyone settled in, then start repairing and constructing the facilities, so she does just that. Suddenly, Siua is ambushed by Wang Zai, who jumps on her and starts to lick her. Later, Zung goes to greet him, and he asks him about the task he gave him before he left. When they move in, Zung is happy to see Wang Zai gathered over 100 zombie dogs for him like he requested. With the dogs on patrol, he believes that the city's security is covered. After having worked for a month, Zung decides to take a break. Suddenly, the system informs him that Hope City has enough builders, but they need a large number of energy cores to restore full operations. Apparently, these cores exist in extremely hostile environments where living beings can't survive, and only cyborgs can collect them. He's told to go to the mechanical wasteland to find and activate all hidden cyborgs. Zung becomes annoyed that the system is giving him another quest when he's so spent, and he argues that he's never heard of cyborgs in the game after playing for many years. The system tells him that the official game data is limited, but it informs him that a new body is already being grown in the incubation chamber. He can invite a player to link with the body and activate the character who will help him with this mission. Zung realizes he's already drawn the best sucker, Siya, with food, so he wonders who he can drag in again. Suddenly, Siya ambushes him from behind, and she tells him she's hungry, which gets him worried. What gets him worried is that she called his actual name, so he asks her how she knows he's the one, especially because he hadn't revealed his true identity. She points to the display over his head, so the system informs him that players whom he invites are placed on his team, and as such, they can see his name. Zung gets angry because the system didn't tell him that earlier, so he realizes he can only invite people he trusts because the players will know his real identity. It's clear that he can only invite his closest friends, so after he gives Siyo some food to eat, he asks her if she thinks he should invite Professor Zheng, Senior Susu, or Junior Yuting. Siua simply replies that she thinks she needs more meat, so Zhang ignores her and considers the fact that the cyborg looks like a high-tech creation. He recalls that Susu's family is invested in intelligent robotics now, and she's been named the sole heir to the company. After she took over the company, she immediately changed focus and merged AI with cell response tech to create bionic bots. But she's been stuck at a bottleneck that could get the company in serious trouble. He considers the fact that inviting her might help her too, so he does that. Meanwhile, Susu, who's having a nap, wonders why she's receiving a message from the game so early. She decides to log in to check it out, and she appears in the game world. When she checks the message, she finds out it's from Zhang, who says he's in serious trouble inside the game and she's the only one who can help him. However, he promises that she'll benefit too because she'll be able to unlock the hidden cyborg class if she enters the immersive version of the game. She knows it's really Zhang because he calls her by a name only he uses for her, so she decides to accept it in case he's really in trouble. When she does, she's suddenly transported into the cyborg's body. When she becomes conscious, she's surprised by how real it all is. She notices she's become a cyborg, and she notices the tech is way beyond any she's encountered in the real world. Shortly after, Zhang welcomes her back to the team, but she becomes cautious when she spots the zombie. She wonders if Zhang has become a zombie, but she refuses to believe that because mutants are evil. She immediately threatens to destroy him if he doesn't hand the real Zhang over. She blasts him with her powers, but Zhang blocks her attack with a shield. Susu is surprised that this zombie is this strong, so she decides to go all out. As she prepares to attack, Siua wraps her up with her tentacles. She tells Susu it's Siua and explains that Zhang didn't lie to her. She asks Susu to focus her vision on Zhang's head, and she'll be able to see the party info for all players. Confused, Susu tries it out, and she's shocked to find out that Zhang is the zombie nest leader. Later on, Siua explained all that's going on to Susu, so she finally calmed down and accepted reality. She finally understood the mission objective, and she began activating the stored memories of the cyborg to search for relevant info on the new quest. After doing that, she was able to lead them to a long-hidden elevator bay in the Citadel of Hope. It turns out that both the energy cores and the location of the cyborgs were located underneath the Citadel of Hope. As they go down the elevator, the temperature starts to rapidly increase, so Zhang brings the ladies close and creates a covering around them to protect everyone from the heat. He quickly built a small ice shelter, but noticed it's slightly hotter inside, possibly because of the hot ladies smashed against one another. Eventually, the elevator comes to a stop, and they step out. To their surprise, they're engulfed by water, and Susu wonders how they're underwater when the coordinates point to this place. Regardless, Zhang tells her to lead the way so she tracks down the cyborg location. While they're swimming, Zhang notices some mutated merfolks, and he's surprised because they're a species only mentioned in the official game lore. The mermaids seem excited to come close, so Zhang stays to look at them for some time, but it's a cover, and things suddenly go awry. Before the mermaids can attack him, Zhang impales them with his spikes. Zhang was able to see through their camouflage because he's read about their true nature in the official guide, and he knows their strength is in their numbers. Shortly after, they're surrounded by another group of merfolks, and they realize they have no choice but to fight. Zhang starts to freeze them, and Susu steps up by blasting any mermaid in her sight. Meanwhile, Siua stabs the mermaids with her tentacles. Suddenly the merfolk stop attacking as if something scared them off. Susu immediately notifies the team to take cover because she's detected a large creature nearby. It turns out to be a legendary mutated evil megalodon, and the team goes to hide. Suddenly the megalodon is grabbed by another huge monster, the mutated titan squid, who prepares to have him for dinner. When the squid sucks in, the entire team is dragged along. Shortly after, they end up inside the octopus. Inside the octopus, they find some sort of building, so Susu identifies the place as the location of the energy core and the cyborg army, referring to it as the legendary ghost ruins. Zhang wonders how the ghost ruins ended up inside the mutated titan emperor squid, so Susu figures that humans probably tried to ditch the energy core and the cyborg army base into the sea, and the squid must have accidentally swallowed it. When they move in, they notice several inactive cyborgs on the ground, so Susu says that her data refers to these cyborgs as the Titan female core, the strongest force in the cyborg army. Apparently they consume a lot of energy because they're huge, so they went dormant after they ran out of power. They decide to quickly run past these robots because of how creepy they are, and Zhang mentions that he feels like they're watching them. While moving forward, Zhang asks Susu where to go next, so she tells him that the Ghost Ruins layout has changed from what she remembers, and she wonders if the place mutated too. Zhang has never heard of a mutating city, but he believes it's not out of place since this place is part of the mutant's body. To find the energy core faster, Susu suggested that the group split up and notify the team for backup immediately if they run into danger. While Zhang is looking around, he wonders if they're really in the legendary Ghost Ruins. He's suddenly ambushed. The person ambushing him wonders why a zombie would be here and if the zombies continued evolving after the chaos. However, he decides to treat Zung like trash and feed him to his Titan Emperor Squid baby as a snack. Suddenly, the system apologizes to Zung for the delay and gives him the reward for completing the cyborg body mission with his teammates, which is 20,000 gold coins, a penetrating strike combo, and a blind box. His new mission is to recover the cyborg leader, Dr. Mecha. Zung now has a few other skills that include death evolution, which allows him to recover and undergo maximum evolution when near death. He also has the perception skill, which allows him to sense hostile creatures nearby and identify their original form. Zung is glad that he ran into a major boss at the beginning of this mission, which is the best time for him to test his new skills. Meanwhile, Sia is surprised because she fell into the water again, but she's soon surrounded by mutated piranhas. She immediately starts slashing the monsters since they're not a threat, and they're a gourmet gift from heaven. Because she needs energy to keep exploring, she kills a lot of them and finds a spot above water to roast them. The surviving piranhas skedaddle, and they summon the mother piranha, who's livid that Sia ate her babies. However, Sia's excited to see her, and the mother piranha realizes she's cooked, literally and figuratively. Meanwhile, Susu notices that the signal is getting stronger, so she concludes she must be close to the cyborg control room. When she moves forward, she accidentally triggers a laser net, so she activates her cyborg body and detaches her body parts so each part can fit through the holes. When she passes through the net, she reattaches her body. It amazes her that the robotic tech in this world is so advanced, and she wonders what will happen if they apply this tech to their project in the real world. She eventually approaches the nearby door, and after unlocking it, she finds several vials filled with dormant cyborgs. She activates the cyborg army, and the cyborgs are released. When they come out, the cyborgs identify her as an intruder, and they switch to slaughter mode. Susu is shocked and wonders why these cyborgs are attacking their allies. One of them tries to smash her into the ground, so she jumps out of the way. She knows cyborgs are brain-machine hybrids, but this one is acting like a broken recorder, which means something is off. She quickly activates her energy shield before the blast from the cyborg reaches her. She soon realizes that the cyborg's energy level is at 200%, and the cyborg soon moves close and switches to close combat annihilation mode. However, Susu activates her Super AI Tien, which allows her to predict enemy movement. With that, she's able to dodge his punch, so she easily detaches his hand so he doesn't have a weapon. In a moment, she detaches its legs also, so the cyborg falls on its back and keeps yelling to eliminate the intruders. Susu decides to reset its system, and when she does, she confirms her suspicion that the cyborg system had a forced command implanted. She reinstalls everything and restarts the system, and when the cyborg wakes up, he wonders why he's outside the stasis pod. Susu informs him that he had a kill program implanted in him, but he's back to normal, so she asks him to tell her what happened earlier. When the cyborg looks at her, he asks if it's a prototype unit, and when Susu asks what he means, he says it's a long story. Apparently, back then, someone named Dr. Guangya was the top scientist in AI robotics, and he used his self-made cyborgs to transport nuclear energy to help build the Citadel of Hope. Over time, the cyborgs became more capable and became responsible for defending the Citadel, which is how the Cyborg Legion was formed. However, a rebellion later broke out in the Hope Citadel, and the entire Legion was exiled. The reason they exiled them was because they feared the awakened zombies might gain access to the cyborg technology. At this point, the humans built the most advanced tech in cyborgs into a prototype unit, but the prototype unit suddenly disappeared after the rebellion and wasn't exiled with the Legion. As for the kill program, he explains that it was probably the Guardian protocol that Dr. Guangya implanted. The cyborg expresses its confusion as to why Dr. Guangya would exile them and embed such a program in them. Susu turns around and says they'll have to go ask him, but the other cyborg wonders where she'd find him. Behind her, the other cyborgs ambush her and try to eliminate her. The other cyborg explains that there were 300 of them, and it's likely they all had a Guardian protocol installed. Suddenly, a huge punch knocks the cyborgs to the ground, and Susu is shocked that it's coming from the Titan female unit they saw in hibernation. However, the Titan cyborg addresses Susu as prototype and their leader, and she informs her that she came here for her. Susu is confused, so the Titan explains that the Titan female unit was a special team created around the prototype unit. It has only 9 members, and they all follow her orders. Apparently, Dr. Guangya implanted a special protocol in them, and only the prototype could awaken them. When Susu realizes she's here to follow her orders, she informs the Titan that she needs help with something important right now. Meanwhile, Zung keeps locking horns with Dr. Mecha. He tries to punch his tentacles, but he's surprised that the guy's tentacles feel so squishy and are able to completely nullify his attack. While this is going on, Cua holds the now-dead Mother Piranha over the fire to roast. After she's had her fill, she jumps back into the water to regroup with the others. She runs into something that seems like a piranha nest, and she's suddenly ambushed by the top dog, the mutated Z-Clan Piranha King. Inside the facility, Zeng blasts the doctor with thunder, but the doctor is amused because the electric current feels good. Zeng is surprised that this guy can absorb electricity, so the doctor tells him that he has electric eel genes in his body, so his attacks only give him more energy. In that case, Zeng decides to roast him alive, so he blasts him with fire. However, the doctor blocks the attack easily, much to Zeng's surprise. The doctor tells him not to be surprised, because he's also fused with worm genes, so high temperatures don't affect him either. But the doctor confesses that he's curious how a tiny zombie like him can have such high intelligence and possess so many powers. The doctor offers to let him go if he stops now, as long as he's not a threat, and has awakened his intelligence. However, Zeng tells him he's just an ordinary little zombie, but he came here for the energy core, and he's not leaving until he finishes his mission. Dr. Guangya is surprised he knows about the energy core, but he tells Zeng there's no way he can give them to him. Zeng tells him it doesn't matter if he wants to give it or not, and he decides it's time to try out the new skill he got earlier. He activates his internal force combo and blasts the doctor's tentacles. After a moment, the doctor starts to scream, and he wonders what's going on since his octopus cells are supposed to cushion any impact, but he's taking impact. The doctor realizes the skill transfers damage over distance and then bursts all at once, making it stronger than before. As the force knocks him on his back, he wonders how this little zombie has so many odd tricks. Zeng decides to end the doctor's life, but Susu grabs his morphed hand with a chain she released from her hand, and she tells Zeng not to kill the doc. The doctor is shocked that he's seeing a first-gen cyborg, so Zeng asks her what's going on. Susu asks Dr. Guangya, whom she refers to as Dr. Guangya, to explain what happened after he was exiled. Dr. Guangya soon starts explaining that it all started with the uprising in the Citadel of Hope. In a flashback, an official thanks Dr. Guangya for everything he's done, but they tell him they can't risk the cyborg tech leaking out because of the rebellion, so they have to exile the cyborgs to an uninhabited secret place. Guangya protests that they're using them and tossing them away like garbage. He knew that humanity wanted the exile of the cyborg army not only to protect the tech, but also because they feared the power of the cyborgs. The official tells Guangya that they'll continue treating his zombified daughter and keep working on turning her back into a human if he agrees. But they'll have to leave her if he doesn't. Because of that, Guangya was forced to make a terrible decision. To protect his daughter and save the cyborg army, he decided to carry out the exile plan on his own. After he embarked on that journey, the first-generation cyborg was sent to the human base to be dismantled. Guangya chose a spot in the depths of the sea as the site for their exile, but they ended up being swallowed by a mutated octopus. When he woke up, he realized they were inside the octopus's belly. The octopus had also swallowed a small town, and this was what allowed them to be able to survive. Using some parts from the town, Guangya transformed himself into a cyborg brain linked with the octopus's heart and brain. With that, he was able to control the octopus and also coexist with it. He also put the cyborg army into hibernation and implanted an anti-intruder program into them so that no one could enter or leave, so his daughter could continue her treatment. He says he's been living here for many years and has lost track of time, and he doesn't even know if his daughter is still alive or how she's doing now. Guangya admits that he never thought he'd see such a powerful zombie, and he finds it odd that a first-generation cyborg showed up on the same day too. Suddenly, Zeng asks the doc if he'd like to see his daughter if she was still alive, so he says he would love to. However, he says he doesn't know how to separate himself since he's merged with the octopus. Susu offers to help out, and she orders the Titan cyborg to separate Guangya's core system, preserve his energy core, and then reconnect his mechanical limbs. Once that's done, she reboots his system, and Guangya is surprised when his consciousness returns. Susu also informs him that she uploaded all the historical records from this world into his new body, which includes Guang Xiaofei's data, his daughter. Guangya becomes angry because he didn't expect to be tricked by the new humans, but he's glad that Xiaofei has awakened her consciousness. Eventually, Zeng notifies the doc that the new humans have gotten stronger, so the mutants have taken the Hope City as their base to strike back once they've built up their power. Guangya asks them if they're here to retrieve the energy core and activate the cyborg army, so he says they can have it all if they agree to one condition. Zeng says he'll do whatever it is if it is within his ability, so the doctor comes close and whispers something into his ears. The request shocks Zeng, so the doctor tells him not to speak loudly. However, Susu has a bad feeling about the whole thing. Sometime later, the doc takes them to the surface using the octopus, so Susu asks the doctor if he's not coming back with them to see Xiaofei. He says he's going to return, but there's something important that he needs to do first, and he tells Zeng that he's leaving Xiaofei in his hands, and he reminds him not to forget his promise. He also tells Zeng to ensure he wins the fight against the new humans. Later, they successfully bring back the energy core back to the Hope City, and when they reactivate it, energy spreads through the city. The system congratulates Dung for recovering the energy core and the cyborg army and grants him 20,000 gold coins as well as 2 mystery boxes. Zhang checks out his stats, and he's glad to see he's accrued so much funds and his abilities have evolved significantly. He asks the system how he can transfer some of the gold into the real world, so he's told to input his real-world bank card number panel and the funds will be transferred instantly. However, he's advised to keep some gold because the system is about to open a special shop. Apparently, it's a game store that's designed specifically for mutants. He can purchase weapons, skills, and even some rare items that are useful for mutants. When he looks through the store, he sees a mutant primary evolution card that costs 100,000 gold coins, a mutant random skill mystery box that costs 200,000 gold coins, and a nuclear-powered battle tank that costs 250,000 coins. Zhang realizes the prices are really high, so he decides to use part of the gold to pay for his dad's surgery and then start saving again. He asks the system to give him a new mission, so he's told to invite a new player into the Zerg Queen's body. Zhang looks at the new body in the pod, and suddenly he remembers that he forgot to bring Siyue back from the mission. Meanwhile, Dr. Guangya heads out to see his mutated Piranha King baby, Big Bao, and he brings a huge fish for the Piranha King to eat. When he puts the fish in, he notices that it was eaten at a very rapid pace, which is abnormal for Big Bao, so he decides to check for himself. When he dives underwater, he's shocked to see a zombie girl with piranha tentacles eating the fish. He figures that she must have eaten Big Bao, and he remembers seeing her from the data Susu copied into him. He knows she's one of Zhang's comrades, but he notices something seems off, so he figures that she absorbed too much piranha gene. The piranha gene has aggressive properties, and she's probably gone berserk. But he's impressed that she's able to wipe out Big Bao's whole school of fish, so he considers bringing her along for future missions. Before that, he decides to calm her down first. Meanwhile, some guy named Zhao Huo has fun with 2 other female fighters. He tells one of the ladies, Yi, that she can come to his room that night to know the secret of new human evolution, and he talks about battling it out with her and the other lady, Luoluo, that night. Suddenly, the roof of the place they're in is broken into, so Huo goes into a rage to fight whoever disturbed his private time. Before he knows what's going on, someone grabs his face and smashes it into the ground. The lady asks him if he thinks he has a chance against her, and Huo recognizes her as Sister Guangling. He's surprised she came to see him, so he asks why they can't talk this out instead of being physical, but she tells him she's not the one looking for him, but the boss. Huo gets up and quickly greets the boss, Ghost Eye, and asks that he give his little bro a heads up next time so he can come meet him instead of him coming. Ghost Eye tells him there'll be no next time if the mission fails again. That surprises Huo, and he says he can't believe that Feng Ying and her team failed, especially since Feng Ying is one of his best fighters. He mentions that he also told her to bring 2 other helpers to ambush them. So Ghost Eye tells him that he's out here drinking and partying, so he hasn't realized that zombies in the wasteland have evolved. He adds that they're evolving faster, and several powerful zombie leaders have appeared. Ghost Eye explains that Ling will lead the team this time, and Huo will take 10 mid-level players to clear out the zombie nest. He tells them to take any zombie leader they find alive because the commander wants to do some research on them. Meanwhile, in the real world, Yuting puts on her VR goggles, and she considers the fact that she's not seen Susu or Siyue log in for a while. She decides to look for them inside the game as she reminisces about the good old days. While she's looking around, she hears that the rebellious kid, the top player, has shown up at the Hunter Guild recently. Apparently, a lot of fast-evolving zombie leaders have appeared, and everyone's being urged to level up. The guy mentions that he needs to find a way to evolve and awaken his human abilities too, so Yuting wonders what's going on since that was not part of the game before. The other guy replies to the first person that working hard won't help because he's heard that one needs an official secret invitation email to qualify for awakening. Suddenly, Yuting receives an unread message, and when she opens it, she learns it's from Zheng, Susu, and Siyue, who claim to have been captured by the mutated villain commander. The message asks her to accept the hidden invitation if she wants to rescue them. She's also told she can unlock a brand new hidden class. However, she wonders if it's a scam. Meanwhile, Zheng wonders if Yuting will fall for the lame excuse he wrote in the message. He figures that Yuting is easier to trick than Professor Jiang, and he apologizes to her. Suddenly, Yuting's mind is linked to the Zerg Queen's body. When she awakens, she wonders where she is, and where the teammates she's supposed to rescue are. She also notices how real everything seems. But someone soon calls out her name, and it turns out to be Zheng. All she sees is a zombie wave at her, so she wonders if Zheng and the others were also tricked here by this zombie too. She becomes worried because she's the only one left and suddenly collapses under pressure. Zheng rushes to catch her and he quickly tells her that he's Zheng. However, she doesn't believe him, especially because there's no way Zheng would turn into a zombie. She asks him if he hid all her seniors somewhere and threatens to tear him to pieces if he doesn't give them back. Suddenly, huge bugs appear around her, and Zung wonders if this is the ability of her current form. The system confirms that her form isn't just some average class, but she's literally the queen of the insectoids. Zung is surprised that the legendary race exists, since he's only seen them described on the game official site. From what he remembers, the insectoid queen can mentally control all members of the insectoid army to attack. So he figures that trying to explain things now won't work. She soon orders some of her insectoids to attack him, so Zung jumps off the ground and prepares to fight her until she calms down. He quickly freezes the ground and the insectoids. Then he asks her to look at herself for a second. When she sees her reflection on one of the ice particles, she becomes confused, and when she looks at Zung's head, she sees the display panel that shows Zung's name and confirms that he's the Nest Lord. When she sees it, she starts crying because he's really the one, and she finally calms down. When she calms down, Susu and Zung explain things to her. She finds it horrible that it's always the mutants of this world who are always getting oppressed, and she immediately supports making the new humans pay since she's now a mutant. However, Zung calms her down because there are other stuff to deal with. Even though he knows Yuting is a bit timid, he knows she's got good fighting ability. Since Susu can easily handle the construction, Zung decides to take Yuting out so she can level up through missions. He soon checks with the system to give out a new mission, so the system first gives him 15,000 gold coins for successfully summoning a teammate. His new mission is called Strike First, and he's supposed to eliminate a team led by Ling and Huo who are likely to make a move soon. Zung recognizes Huo and Ling, and he's glad to run into them again. He immediately tells Susu to focus on construction, and he takes Yuting with him. Meanwhile, at a hidden location, Ling tells Huo that they are out of options. She reminds him that they're all players who crossed into the game, and they disappear forever if they die here. However, Huo asks her to remain calm because they can handle any zombie if they team up. She reminds him of how Feng Ying died, so he said it's his fault for not sending enough backup with her. Regardless, Ling tells him he's wrong, because their numbers don't matter if the strength they're up against is too great. She shows him a secret weapon she got from Ghost Eye, but she warns him not to use all of it since they still don't know the side effects. He excitedly takes it from her and injects himself, stating that one shot of this is more than enough to deal with those zombie trash. His body suddenly starts to transform as he takes the shot, and a great deal of fire spews out of his body. Meanwhile, Siue wakes up from her slumber and wonders where she is. She wonders how she blacked out, and she remembers that she was supposed to meet with Zung and the others. Suddenly, the doc appears to her on screen and tells her it's nice to meet her for the first time. He explains to her that she went on a rampage and blacked out because she ate too many mutant piranhas, which caused her to evolve way too fast. He informs her that her friends already got the energy core and have returned to the Citadel of Hope, and he's notified them that she's here. Siue looks dejected, so the doctor tells her not to feel down because she'll be with him for now, and the next part of their journey will be her favorite since they're going on a food tour. He tells her to go change in the room, and later come to the lab so they can head out together. They soon head out, and Guangya leads her to the Titan's Abyss, the ruin of an ancient civilization where there are some ancient writings. He explains that the writings on their left shows that the ancient civilization had fully mastered nuclear energy. Apparently, the energy core they found was one of the many things they got from these ruins. Despite being so advanced, the ancient civilization firmly believed in the existence of gods. The god they worshipped was a giant beast sleeping beneath the earth, and they built an underwater temple to honor that beast. Apparently, this monster feeds on energy and it falls into deep sleep as long as it's given enough energy cores. The reason they feared the beast was because they had the power to destroy the world, especially because the beast carries some mutant genes. The ancient humans discovered that these genes could spread and reproduce like a virus. Whenever creatures got infected, they sometimes died or, in severe cases, experienced mutation. Apparently, no one knows where the mutant genes come from, but it's safe to assume that every mass extinction and every great leap in evolution was somehow connected to this beast. Even though humanity's nuclear war didn't cause the mutations, it was enough to awaken the beast. When it woke up, it became furious, and its mutant genes spread everywhere. After a short time awake, the monster went back to sleep. At this point, the mutations had already gotten out of control. Guangya hopes to be able to find and study the beast's mutant genes so he can find a way to help turn Xiaofei, his daughter, back into a human. However, he knows that the path to reach the beast's sleeping chamber is a long one, and there will be all sorts of mutant monsters on their way there. Suddenly, Guangya finds Siue eating one of the crab-like monsters that she found on the way. Reluctantly, he tells her to stay close by and not to wander off looking for food. Meanwhile, a giant female reaver suddenly feels someone throw a stone at her from behind. She quickly turns back to attack the person, but she doesn't see anyone. Suddenly, someone drives her hand through her back and out through her chest. It turns out to be Ling, who says it's starting to get boring to hunt mutants in this area. Huo agrees and suggests they just head to the thorn forest instead of wasting time here. Behind them, some henchmen try to catch up to them, and they ask Boss Huo to slow down for them because he's too strong. Soon after, Yi gets close enough and she tells Huo that he's amazing. Suddenly, Wang Zai appears out of nowhere and chops off Yi's upper body with one bite. This shocks the rest, and Ling wonders how a low-level zombie dog can be found in such a place. Huo protests that zombie dogs aren't this fast, so Ling orders everyone to come close to her. They're soon surrounded by a group of zombie dogs, and Ling tells them that these zombie dogs have evolved. Meanwhile, a huge monster tails Guangya and Siyue. When it tries to attack them, Siyue senses it and quickly stabs it with her tentacles. After that, the doctor blasts the monster to offer support. Soon after, she starts to consume the monster, and Guangya realizes it was a good idea to bring her along. Moments later, they swim above the water and they find a place that Guangya believes should be the temple. When they look around, Guangya finds it strange that the legendary beast isn't there since it's supposed to be. He wonders if the legend is a fake, and while they aren't looking, one of the statues opens its eyes, with its body covered with mutant genes. Guangya also wonders if they have to meet certain conditions to get the beast god to appear, but the mutant gene soon leaks out of the statue and tries to grab them from behind. Before it can attack them, Siyu blocks it with one of her tentacles. Immediately, all the statues in the temple are overtaken by the mutant cell. Guangya is surprised that the statues came to life, and he wonders if it's the same creature as the legendary beast. He starts to blast the statues, and he successfully breaks down some of them. However, the parts of the statues that split apart become separate beasts, so Guangya quickly tells Siyue to focus on defense so as to stop the monsters from multiplying. When he turns back, he's surprised to find out that she's already using her tentacles to eat up one of the monsters, so he concludes that he was just overthinking things. Siyue latches onto all the monsters using her tentacles and starts to feed on them one after the other. Meanwhile, the members of Ling's team have been injured, but she and Huo are still on their feet. She wonders how zombie dogs suddenly evolved, and Wang Zai soon steps out to face them again. Huo covers his body with fire and states that these dogs are nothing since he's in his secondary evolution form. He dashes towards the dogs with fists covered in fire and knocks several of them back, causing Wang Zai to move backwards. Huo laughs that the dogs are scared now and he should have transformed sooner, but Ling tells him not to get too confident because he can lose too much stamina by going all out. Suddenly, they notice an attack from behind and they jump out of the way to avoid the attack. It turns out to be the scientist lady they abandoned a while ago, but she's now a zombie, and she has a zombie girl on her shoulder. Huo recognizes her as Tai, but he doesn't believe Tai can become a zombie. However, Tai reminds him that he abandoned her a long time ago, and she promises to tear him limb from limb. Huo doesn't seem moved, and he tells her he's going to kill her, so Tai sends her child to attack them first. Shortly after, Ling is forced to retreat to the top of a nearby building, and she wonders how all these zombies got this strong. She's soon ambushed by S09, who tells her there's no need to run because she'll meet her end today. Ling tells her to piss off and kicks her in the guts, but S09 asks her if that's all she's got. S09 grabs her by the feet and smashes her into the ground, but Ling quickly uses her power to bounce back on her feet. With her back against the wall, Ling realizes using the substance Ghost Eye gave her is the only way out of this, so she stabs herself with it, and her form begins to change. Massive energy soon pours out of her body, but S09 still jumps ahead to come pummel her. Ling hadn't expected the zombies who were test subjects to be this powerful, however she's certain she can take her down after her secondary evolution. She launches a punch into S09's face and kicks her, sending her flying a few feet away. Ling tells S09 that she's strong, but S09 gets up and tells her this was just a warm-up, because she's now getting serious. S09 soon twists her head, and 4 other arms pop out besides the 2 she had before. This surprised Ling, but S09 simply grabs her 2 arms with 2 of hers and pounds her face with the others. When she's knocked down, S09 asks Lord Zeng what she should do with her, so Zeng commends her, and he refers to her as Dali. He tells her to take Ling back to the base because he needs to interrogate her. He had hopes that Ling would be much stronger because he wanted this to be a chance for Yuting to get some practice. However, he knows that the new humans will certainly send out stronger players. Before that, he plans to get some information about the state of things on their end. Meanwhile, Siyue laments that she's so full from eating so much. Guangya wonders why the god still hasn't appeared after Siyue has eaten so much. But Siyue suddenly begins to vibrate and starts to vomit some blood. The blood causes a trail of light to activate beneath their feet, and Guangya figures out that this temple is actually a passageway, and they needed the genes of the legendary beast for identification. They soon begin to descend, and Guangya wonders where the passage leads to. Somewhere else, a huge dinosaur eats another one that's just going about his business. Suddenly, the huge dinosaur is attacked by a larger monster that rips its head off. The monster is clearly imbued with the mutant genes, which is seen bursting out of its body. Suddenly, the monster notices the huge throne from the temple descending into their domain. On the throne platform, Guangya and Siyu are shocked by the sight. Guangya wonders if they're in the hollow of the earth, and they're soon ambushed by the huge monster before they can act. Guangya figures that they must be in the god's lair, but Siyu quickly swings into action and tries to go for the monster's head. However, the monster splits its head open and swallows Siyu. After swallowing her, he turns his attention to Guangya, who doesn't seem fazed, but tells the monster it won't have a chance to get him. Suddenly, the monster notices a strange pressure in its stomach, and Siyu soon bursts out, tearing the stomach wall open. She pulls out something that looks like its heart and starts eating it, and Guangya becomes extra relieved that he brought her along since she has such a huge appetite. They soon notice a strange sound, and Guangya wonders if the god is about to awaken. Meanwhile, in the abyss of the end, Zheng receives a reward of 30,000 gold coins because his clan member has defeated a new human. He also received 50,000 gold coins because Siyu slayed the ancient mutant beast, the mutant gorilla, and his savings reached 485,000 gold coins. At this point, Zheng realizes he can finally pay off all of his dad's medical bills. He's also surprised that training other teammates or clan members to complete missions doubles his rewards, so that gives him ideas. The system confirms that no matter how strong he becomes, he can still be overwhelmed by numbers. So strengthening his teammates will be highly incentivized going forward. Because of that, he decides to focus on training the others to get stronger. Nearby, Tai's zombie daughter blasts Huo with blue fire and tells him to scram. Huo has no choice but to hide, and he wonders how this stupid woman has a little zombie whose fire manipulation is stronger than his. He's overwhelmed by her fire because it's several times hotter than his. He wishes he had more evolution potions so he could overpower them, but Tai soon finds him where he's hiding. With a syringe full of evolution potion, she asks him if this is what he wants and tosses it at him, so he quickly pushes it into his bloodstream and calls her an idiot. However, his body starts to enlarge in weird proportions, shocking him. Tai calls him an idiot and tells him the human body can't withstand an overdose of evolution potion in such a short amount of time. In an instant, Huo's body is engulfed in fire and he explodes. After his body collapses, Tai finds a crystal in his corpse and wonders if it's his energy crystal. Shortly after, Zheng takes Ling into his prison, and he's notified that Tai has taken out Huo, so he's given 30,000 coins. He's also informed that she has obtained a fire attribute energy crystal. He decides to focus on getting information from Ling, who begins to ask if it's over for her and if she's going to die in this world. Even though she won't be able to return to her original world if she dies, she says it's still better than being tortured by those male zombies. Zheng asks her what nonsense she's talking about, and she asks who's there when his voice startles her. He tells her she doesn't need to know who he is and says he won't kill her as long as she answers his questions obediently. She asks him what he wants to know, so he pulls off her blindfold and tells her to start with everything she knows. She decides to talk, and 20 minutes later, she divulges all the information she has. According to her, players have started evolving in batches using the evolution potion developed by Dr. Chin, and most of the players were transported into the game after they received a mysterious invitation. Zheng realizes that this means that most of the players are now actual living people, but he decides to go all out and not have pity for any of them. The part that he doesn't understand now is the fact that his main account seems to have started leading the New Humans Guild, so he asks Ling if she knows the person who is behind the max-level account Rebellion Kid, so she says she's not too sure who controls the max-level account because he's never revealed himself. She asks him to keep his promise since she's said everything she knows, so Zheng tells her he won't kill her, but he grabs one of Yuting's bugs and tells Ling that he has a task for her. He sticks the mutant worm into her mouth, which makes its way into her body, and he tells her that it'll be a part of her forever. Ling starts to scream because her body feels like it's on fire, so she asks what's going on. Yuting explains that the worm can enhance the ability of the host, and she says her power level should increase in a bit. However, she must obey their every command, or the worm will make all her internal organs rupture immediately. Immediately, Zheng tells Ling that her next mission is to stay by Ghost Eye's side, and he says he'll give her orders through the worm. Shortly after, Ling returns to Ghost Eye, and she laments that they almost succeeded but she was useless, but he tells her it's fine as long as she made it back alive. He says they'll rally the evolved players in their team to launch a major counterattack. However, the Iron Clan Lord tells Ghost Eye to give it up and stop embarrassing himself. He says it's time for the Iron Clan to take care of things, but Ghost Eye calls him an idiot and asks if he has any idea what the zombies have evolved into. He says they aren't afraid of new humans, so there's no reason they'll be afraid of Iron Max's pile of scrap metal. Regardless, the Iron Lord replies that fear stems from the lack of firepower. He explains that his Iron Girl's 2.0 battle armor's firepower will completely overwhelm the zombies. Meanwhile, at night in the real world, Miss Jiang stretches in the bathtub after working overtime that day. She decides to check out the game for some fun, and she logs in. When she appears, she realizes that things are so quiet, so she guesses that most players have not made it to the Biometropolis yet. She suddenly notices some people flying by who she recognizes as the Iron Girls from the Iron Science clan. Jiang figures that something big must be happening, so she follows them to find out what it is. However, she doesn't notice that Lee is watching her from behind. He's glad to see new humans serving themselves up on a platter, and he hopes he can get in some practice. Suddenly, he attacks her from behind, but she quickly blocks it with a barrier. Regardless, he smashes through her barrier and knocks her toward the ground, so she wonders how this zombie is so agile. Because the power gap is way too big, she decides to call for backup, so she shoots a signal into the air. Lee notices the 3 different mahjong tiles she shot into the air, but Jiang hopes that the others will see her signal. She remembers a conversation with her teammates where they decided on the 3 mahjong tiles since they look like Morse code for SOS. Regardless of whether they show up, she grabs her sword to at least enjoy this fight against the zombie. She dashes towards Lee with her sword and shield, and they both face off in close combat. However, Lee tells her this is the end for her because she's still too green. When she tries to cut him, the sword doesn't pierce him, so he pushes his hand into her shield and starts to break it apart using his hands. When he breaks the shield, he tries to punch her, so Jiang realizes she has to restart the game and wait to respawn. She wonders where her teammates are and why they're never online. Suddenly, someone blasts Lee away before he can attack her. It turns out to be Zheng and Yuting, who immediately tell Lee to stand down. Jiang becomes worried that the zombie managed to radio for backup before her teammates got there. But Zheng stops her from acting, and he tries to explain things to her. When he gets close, she punches him in the face and logs out of the game immediately. Confused, Zheng wonders why she didn't wait because he was just about to explain that the signal flare was their little secret. Meanwhile, the Iron Girls rain fire on a zombie's nest, and their leader tells the other girls to capture the leaders alive if they can and eliminate the rest. While the ladies rain fire on the zombies beneath them, one of the advanced zombies attacks the Iron Girls' squad leader, but she manages to dodge it. She tries to slash her again, but the squad leader quickly dodges it. The zombie uses the covering clothes on her body to attack the leader, who signals to her comrades to attack. The squad leader tries to shoot the female zombie, but she quickly jumps out of the way and circles behind her. The squad leader realizes the zombie's moving too fast and she's unable to land a hit, so she calls for reinforcements. Moments after, other Iron Girls join her and they circle the female zombie. They all try to attack her at once, but she keeps avoiding every attack because of how fast she's moving. Suddenly, one of the Iron Girls notifies their leader that they have a problem because the horde of zombies fled towards the center of the forest, and the bandaged zombie had followed after them. The leader realizes the bandaged zombie was just stalling for time to let the others escape, so she orders her team to pursue them and let no one leave. When they get to the center of the forest, they're shocked by what they encounter. It turns out to be Susu, who came with an army of cyborgs to clean up the mess. The squad leader orders her team to prepare for battle, but Susu deploys a huge magnet that starts to suck in the armor of the Iron Girls. With their armor pulled off, they start to fall to their deaths. Meanwhile, Miss Jiang logs out and wonders what just happened. She wonders if the zombie was talking to her and what it was trying to explain, and she becomes worried that the game is updating too fast for even veteran players to keep up. In his base, Zheng reads the game's policies and confirms that game accounts are deeply bound to the player through facial recognition, so they can't be traded or stolen. Because of that, he believes the new Human Alliance leader, Rebellion Kid, shouldn't be his account. He decides to get Ling to investigate when the chance comes up. Suddenly, the system notifies him that a new zone called Dark Icefield has been opened to him in advance, and he's told to subdue the mutants in this zone before the zone is open to all the players on the server. Zheng wonders why they're opening another zone he's not heard of when he's not even conquered the Abyss of the End yet. However, the system tells him it's better not to ask too many questions, because this is what he needs to know. Apparently, many players in the new Human Alliance are also people who migrated through invitations, and they've awakened special abilities. Those players have become true new humans, so the game will open more zones to provide them with leveling experience. Meanwhile, Siyue keeps eating the flesh of another ancient monster she slayed, and her appetite doesn't cease to amaze Guangya. Suddenly, a green light appears beneath them, so the doc tells her not to panic because he believes that the stone slates correspond to the map of this world. He notices a section called the Dark Icefield, and he wonders why he's not heard of it, but Siyue simply asks if there's yummy food there too. Suddenly, the entire hollow earth begins to vibrate, and some bird-like creatures fly over the top of their heads. Guangya wonders what they are, but Siyue is excited to eat a big bird. However, Guangya holds her back so she doesn't get a stomachache. They decide to observe things from a bush, and when they get a closer look, they see some sort of angelic being surrounded by other winged people who clearly have mutant genes in them. When they come down, one of them says the dark ice field section has been activated, which is strange. Another one asks who did it, but the previous one says they can worry about that later, but they need to focus on the ritual for the ancient true god. When the giant beings leave, Guangya figures that these giants must be the kinsmen of the ancient true god. Suddenly, Guangya is grabbed by the being that was in the midst of the others, who identifies him as a 7th-generation game creature. The giant asks Guangya how they got here, but Guangya remains speechless. Meanwhile, Siyue tries to bite through the giant's flesh, but she finds out that she's unable to. Guangya signals to Siyue to get back, but it's too late because the giant soon grabs her and comments that she's interesting because of the scent on her. He figures that she was able to devour a judgment guard, which is extremely interesting. The giant says that their bodies shouldn't be able to withstand the demonic sounds here, but he's amazed by the evolution of these 7th-generation game creatures. The being throws them through a vortex beneath his feet and tells them to go back for now, and says they might meet again one of these days. Suddenly, Guangya and Siyue land in an ice field, and one of her tentacles coughs out the tissue she bit off the angelic being. Meanwhile, the other giants return to the first one, and they refer to him as Grand Duke Abaddon. Abaddon declares that it's time to start the ritual to welcome their true god, Satan. In the abyss of the end, Susu and the cyborgs pull off the armor of the Iron Girls. Susu holds the squad leader at gunpoint and tells her to surrender. Meanwhile, Ghost Eye becomes angry when he uses his ghost vision to spot that the Iron Girls' legion was completely wiped out. Nearby, the Lord of the Bloodthirsty Paradise, Electric Blade, reminds them that she said to leave the zombie horde for them to handle. She says it's not too late for them to clean up their mess, but the Iron Clan leader says he'll handle his own business. He declares that he's going to test the power of his newly developed alloy battle armor. Electric Blade suggests they compete to see who gets more prey this time, so the Iron Clan leader takes her up on the offer. Meanwhile, in the real world, Miss Jiang considers the weird encounter she had, and she wonders what a zombie would want to explain to her. Because she can't figure it out on her own, she decides to find Zeng and the others to discuss it first. Soon after, she locates them, and when she asks if they know what's going on in the game, they all tell her that they don't know. Jiang immediately senses that something is wrong, so she grabs Deng seductively and pleads that just the two of them log back in to pay those monsters back, but she notices that the other ladies don't interfere, which is unlike them. The other ladies don't respond, so Jiang realizes that they've been replaced. She decides to go back into the game on her own to find an answer, so she logs back in. This time, she appears in a place that she doesn't recognize, and Deng appears behind her to welcome her. He explains to her that this is his territory, the Citadel of Hope, but she rushes at him to kick him in the face. Zeng quickly dodges the attack because he's certain she'll be able to shatter his head with that kick. He tries to stop her, but Jiang considers fighting to the death against him since it's only one zombie. Zeng tries to stop her and tells her to let him finish talking, so she pulls out her sword and asks him if her friends are acting strange because of him. Zeng admits that it's kind of his fault, but before he can explain, she tells him there's nothing left to explain and dashes towards him with her sword. They engage in close combat, and Zeng is forced to dodge her attacks because every single one of them is a killing blow. He figures that she'll destroy his home base if she keeps this up, so he uses his morphed hand to subdue her and grab her sword. He apologizes to her using her real name, which surprises her, so she asks him what he just called her. Zeng tells her he's Zeng, so Jiang asks him why he didn't say that sooner. He tells her she didn't give him a chance to explain. She wonders if it's possible to play the game as a zombie and asks about the others. So Yuting appears and says she was the one standing next to Zeng the other time. Eventually, Zeng gives a long explanation of everything that has happened, and he asks her if she'd be willing to join them to play the game. She immediately says she understands, and Zeng is surprised by her decisiveness. Soon after, her consciousness is transported into the body of one of the zombies, so they follow Zeng out to their territory. When they get here, Jiang is amazed by the sight of their home, but Li soon rushes to announce that they have an intruder. It turns out to be the boss of the Bloodthirsty clan who crushes Li under her feet and asks Zeng if he's the boss around here. Electric Blade signals to the Iron Clan leader that she's at number 107, so he responds that he's at 115 and thanks her for the fight. Electric Blade immediately rushes to take Zeng's head to increase her kill count, so Zeng says he'd like to see if she has what it takes. Immediately, Jiang rushes to face the clan leader, who's surprised by how fast she moved. Because of the speed of her movement, she's forced to dodge, so Jiang uses the opportunity to retrieve Li. It annoys Electric Blade that Jiang tricked her, so she stabs at Zeng, but he quickly shields himself, which impresses her. Zeng immediately calls out to Yuting, who releases a small creature called a Slug of Mending. Apparently, the slug is like a little nurse, and it takes care of Li's wounds until he feels good enough to fight again. Zung tells Lee he has a chance to attack again, so he jumps at Electric Blade and asks what kind of hero uses a sneak attack. He dares her to fight him fair and square, and when he tries to punch her into the ground, she jumps back. Behind Lee, Zung tells the others that they're leaving, so Electric Blade concludes that they're trying to escape. Behind Zung, Yuting makes funny faces at Electric Blade and says they're not worthy of being their opponents. Later, Iron Max finds his girls tied up somewhere, so he sets them free, and they jump on him in excitement. Meanwhile, Susu orders that the cyborgs direct a blast at a specific coordinate, so they do so. It turns out that the girls were bait for Susu to attack Iron Max too, but some of the girls quickly create a shield to protect their boss from the blast. Zung notices the explosion and tells Susu she's going to reduce the entire place to rubble if she keeps fighting this way. Susu jokes that the buildings are already shabby and they can just rebuild them with a little money since the most important thing is taking care of these disgusting cockroaches. She continues blasting them, and suddenly some of the members of the Electric Blades team try to attack Zung from behind while he's chatting with Yuting. Before they can hit him, Jiang swoops in and knocks them away. Yuting tells Zung she understands what he means, so she summons her subjects. She summons a creature called the Attack Metal-Eating Beetle and releases it to face the members of Electric Blade's team. Meanwhile, Guangya isolates the mutant flesh that Siyue got while she chills on the ground. Suddenly, she notices the smell of food and notices an ice armor snow wolf that's at level 44 approaching them. Guangya is shocked, but Siyue rushes at the monster because she's too hungry to care. Guangya warns her to stand back because they don't even know what the monster is. Siyue tries to bite into the monster using her piranha bite force, but it's unable to penetrate it. Instead, the wolf bites off her tentacle and other wolves appear behind it. Guangya realizes they're cooked, but Siyue doesn't give up and launches at the wolves with her tentacles. Suddenly, one of the wolves grabs Siyue's tentacles in its mouth, but she pushes in another one into the wolf's open mouth, so the wolf mistakenly bites its counterpart instead, and Siyue swallows the blood that comes out. She immediately confirms that the best way to beat them is to make them attack one another. The attacked wolf soon dies, and the system notifies Siyue that she's killed an ice armor snow wolf, so she's gained the ability called Unbreakable Ice Armor and Shield-Shattering Fang. Meanwhile, Yuting orders her beetles to devour the members of the Bloodthirsty Paradise group until nothing is left. The beetles immediately start eating up their weapons and armor, causing the ladies to cry out for help. This annoys Iron Max, who decides to show the zombies the power of his newly developed alloy battle armor. He generates an inferno from his hand and starts to burn the beetles, so Yuting decides that it's time to evolve her little babies. One of the ladies from the Iron Clan runs away from the beetles and heads toward Iron Max, begging him to save her. However, he tells her to stay away from him, and he roasts her with his fire. When he notices the other girls are overwhelmed by the beetles, he tries to get them to move away from him, so he tells them that their work will pave the path of the advancement of the new humans. He tells them to rest in peace and sets them all ablaze. Meanwhile, Lee continues his fight with Electric Blade, who realizes that the situation is going awry. Lee tells her that she was only able to cut him before because she ambushed him, and he tells her she's no match in a fair fight. Electric Blade agrees that he's right, and she wishes she could get a few more people providing cover. Suddenly, one of her girls lands in front of her after John kicks her towards Electric Blade. Lee jumps towards Electric Blade to punch her and tells her that her comrades are about to be wiped out, and he tells her to surrender quietly. However, Electric Blade says she'll only surrender in his dreams, so she breaks out an evolution potion and consumes it. Doing that causes a destructive energy to burst out of her body, and she becomes empowered, so she tells them she's going to kill them. She dashes towards Lee, who tries to block, but ends up getting some of his body chipped off. He wonders how this crazy girl suddenly became this strong, and he realizes things are not looking good. As Electric Blade moves forward to attack again, Zung appears in front of Lee and freezes her sword using a skill called Flash Freeze. This surprises her, so she's forced to leave the blade and retreat. Zung tells Lee not to chase her so he doesn't get roasted by Iron Max, who seems to be going insane. He's also impressed that the evolution potion can strengthen the human body to this extent. Meanwhile, Electric Blade tries to calm Iron Max down and tells him to fight his way out of here with her. He's surprised that she used the potion, but she says they'd all be dead if she didn't use it, so she suggests they escape for now. Iron Max activates his boosters, and they fly away. He admits that they've underestimated the abilities of these monsters, and they'd have to get back to the boss with news. Zhang asks Zung if they should pursue, but he tells them there's no need because the news of their loss will stop the others from coming for a while so they can have some peace. Zung starts to lament because of the damage caused to his zombie lair, and he has to spend 200,000 gold coins to rebuild the lair. When he does that, the system congratulates him for completing the hidden mission by cooperating with his teammates to achieve victory and rebuild his home. He's given a reward of 50,000 gold coins and a passive skill called Bond. He wonders what this skill is, So the system explains that the bond skill allows him to share about 50% of the strength gained by teammates when they obtain new skills. Immediately, he's told that he's gotten the abilities of the Ice Armor Snow Wolf called Unbreakable Ice Armor and Shield Shattering Fang because of the wolf that Siyu killed in the Dark Ice Field. He's impressed by Siyu's achievement, and Susu mentions that she's received a distress signal from Dr. Guangya along with the coordinates. Immediately, Zeng says Susu and Jiang will come with him to find the doctor and Siyue, while Yuting stays back to protect the lairs from possible attacks. Meanwhile, Guangya wonders if the distress signal he sent went through, especially because the electromagnetic interference in the ice field is really strong. Suddenly, Siyu says she detects something yummy, and they soon find a Snowfield Titan tribe. Shortly after, Zeng and the others reach the dark ice field, carried by the female Titan cyborg. Jiang is worried about Siyu being alone in this strange place since she's so silly, and she wonders if she's scared. Zeng replies that he can't tell. But he knows Siyu is not hungry right now because he keeps getting notifications about her eating random monsters. He gets another notification that he's obtained the ability of the blizzard vulture called Eagle Eye. He also gets the ability of the archery god called Ricochet Ice Arrow and another of the Arctic squid called Smokescreen. He says she's nearly eaten her way through the land, sea, and air. Suddenly, Susu gets a warning that they're about to encounter a blizzard 200 meters ahead, so she says they have to change course. However, it turns out it's too late, so Zeng uses his tentacles to hold his teammates so they aren't blown away. The intensity of the blizzard increases, knocking the female Titan backwards, so Zeng covers everyone, including the Titan cyborg, with a shield, so they aren't hurt by the fall. Because they're enclosed in a ball, they bounce off several rocks and they're knocked around inside the ball. Zeng notices something soft behind him and touches it. When he turns around, it turns out to be Jiang's melons, so she asks him if he's had his fill of touching, so he quickly apologizes. She tells him to hurry up and get off her, so he says something is pinning him down and he can't get up. It turns out to be Susu, who presses her own melons into him. The influx of excitement causes Zeng's nose to start to bleed, and he figures that he's lived a life worth living so far, just in case he dies from too much excitement. Eventually, they stabilize, but they're unable to find any signal. The system informs Zeng that they've entered the Dark Icefield dungeon, and he's told that the Dark Icefield is now open to all players, since Zeng has already obtained most of the abilities of the Icefield mutant creatures through the bond skill. Zeng protests that he just got here, and he's supposed to get a chance to farm more experience points, but the system tells him not to bargain. He's soon given a mission to subdue a tribe in the Dark Icefield and become their leader. Zeng wonders how anyone could even live here since the navigation system is useless in a snowstorm. But Jiang suddenly hears something huge approaching from a certain direction. Zeng climbs the Titan cyborg and uses his Eagle Eye skill, which allows him to see a tribe of people rushing towards them. He quickly notifies the others that a tribe of giants are charging towards them. Susu asks if they should run, but Zeng says there's no reason to run from an opportunity that's on a silver platter. The tribe soon finds them, which excites Zeng since he can just complete the mission to subdue the tribe if he defeats them. He expects to face the giants, but he suddenly notices that they're running away from them and not towards them. He suddenly witnesses one of the giants being ripped open by a human who's excited to gather experience points by exploring this new area. Another guy comes behind him and attacks another giant, competing with the first guy to see who gets more experience points. As they take down the giants, it annoys Zeng that they'll take out the subjects he's chosen, so he lets all hell loose on them and destroys them in an instant. Sometime later, the Snowfield Titan tribe chieftain, Amir, tells Zeng that they will not submit to him even though he saved them. He asks her why, since he thought the strongest ruled in these parts, so she says they can't submit to him because of his race. It surprises Zeng that they're playing the racial card, so they tell him that about 3 days ago, an uninvited guest suddenly arrived and stole all of their food, and because they were forced to find more, they were ambushed by the humans. Apparently, this thief was one of their kind, so Zeng realizes it can only be the only glutton he knows, Siyue. Meanwhile, Siyue enjoys a huge piece of meat while sitting next to another huge skeleton she just devoured. Chieftain Amir explains that Zeng has many tentacles like this thief, who had unpredictable movements and a surprising appetite. She admits that they're grateful to him for saving them, but they cannot become his allies. Susu asks if they'd become their allies if they help catch this person, so Amir says she will, if they can really do that. Immediately, Zeng offers to catch this person who stole their food. Shortly after, Siyue returns to the Titan tribe's camp and goes around to see if she can find something tasty to pick up today. She finds a basket full of food but doesn't know the others set up a trap above the food, and Susu wonders if she'll really fall for it since they didn't even really try to hide the net. Zeng tells her not to worry since Siyue will fall for anything that involves food. Siyue is soon captivated by the food, and she decides to feast today because the people here are so wasteful to leave so much food outside. Immediately, Zeng pulls down the net over her head, and she doesn't try to escape at first, but she just tries to quickly get her fill of the food first before attempting to escape. Susu is surprised they caught her, and when they surround her, she asks them what they're doing here. Zung soon tells her that she stole someone else's food, so she protests that she didn't steal it, but she picked up the food that they didn't want since they left it out in the snow. Amir soon explains to her that they keep food in the snow so it can remain fresh, and that's their storage method, and Seo becomes embarrassed. She says it smelled like rotten meat to her, and she thought they threw it out. She apologizes and says she was hungry, but Zung asks her what she means by saying the food smelled rotten. Seo explains that the food had a strange smell, so she figured nobody must have wanted it. Susu decides to check the food and she detects a deadly poison in it. Susu tells Amir that the meat has been poisoned for some reason, and she says that the Snowfield Titans seem to have been fatally affected by small amounts of poison, but they've not reached the accumulated dose because of their large size. Amir suddenly remembers a strange behavior by the elders and the children recently, so she figures that this must have been what caused it. She also recalls that their warriors have been suffering from sudden weakness in their limbs, so they've been getting killed in the battlefield. While they're chatting, Seo starts eating another portion, so Zung forces her to spit it out so she doesn't get poisoned. Suddenly, she starts to writhe in pain, and they wonder if she's poisoned, but she soon gets up, and the system explains that she's evolved the additional damage ability called Poison Fangs. Meanwhile, in the Dark Icefield new human base, construction work continues. Electric Blade and Iron Max soon arrive with their heads down, so Rebellion Kid asks them if they failed. Electric Blade explains that they underestimated them, but she promises that they'll do better next time. However, Rebellion Kid shows them the region, and tells them that they need to transport supplies from New Eden to establish a new human base in the Dark Icefield. But Silent City and Thorn Forest are in the way. They both realize the leader is pointing to the fact that the area is still occupied by a horde of zombies, so they apologize and explain that they will find another way. Rebellion Kid reminds them that what they want isn't just the land occupied by monsters, but to get the entire planet for the new humans only. Sometime later, a group of new humans quickly dig a hole in the thorn forest, and they move material through an underground tunnel. Ling warns the men not to make noise so they don't alert the monsters on the surface. She soon notifies Ghost Eye that they're almost through, and he asks her if they didn't alert the zombies. She informs him that Electric Blade and Iron Max are attacking the zombie territory as a diversion, and they've not been noticed. Also, she mentions that the zombies will be focused on rebuilding their territory after the battle anyway. She adds that once they open the passage from New Eden to the Dark Icefield, the teleportation circle there can also be completed. At that point, the commander will lead the new human players to take the Dark Icefield. However, Ghost Eye replies that he believes that the commander's determination to build a base teleportation circle in the Dark Icefield is unnecessary. He recalls that one of their doctors, Dr. Victor, has developed a virus that targets mutant monsters, and the Dark Icefield will be the first test site for its development. He estimates that the mutant monsters on the icefield will be extinct within a month because of this virus. Suddenly, one of the workers encounters ice while digging, so he comes to notify the higher-ups that they've reached the permafrost layer of the Dark Icefield. Meanwhile, the men digging farther into the tunnel are blown away by a strong gust of wind, so the others quickly try to escape. The commotion creates a loud noise and a bright light which gets the attention of the zombies that are gathering supplies and gets Yuting's attention. She immediately orders some of the higher zombies to go check out what's happening in the west side of the thorn. Yuting figures that something big is about to go down, and she fantasizes about the reward she can get from Zung if she helps out with this. She plans not to hold back with him and get him to have fun with her. Meanwhile, Zung keeps sneezing in the Dark Icefield, and he worries that he's going to catch a cold if he stays for too long. He wonders if zombies can even catch colds. His teammates and Amir accompany him to follow Siyu to the place where she and the doctor have been camping. She leads them to a hut and opens the door to find the doctor knocked down. Guangya struggles to get to his feet, and he asks them to help him pass the evolution potion on the ground. Zung quickly grabs it and injects him. After he does that, the doctor rejoices because he survived, and he praises himself for developing an antibody for virus number 56. Zung wonders what he's talking about, so Guangya explains that it's because of the virus-carrying meat that Siyu brought back. Apparently, it's a fatal virus that targets mutant species, specially developed by Dr. Victor, the Witch of Destruction from the New Human faction. When Guangya was in charge of research there, Victor proposed a plan to study the genes of mutant creatures, then she developed a virus to wipe out their entire race. He rejected her plan because his daughter was a zombie, but the commander accepted the idea and put it to action. He adds that this place is likely the first test site for the plan. That shocks them, but they're stunned by a loud sound. When they step out, they find out that Amir has collapsed, so Guangya tells them the virus must be acting on her body. He says she'll be fine once they inject the antibody, and after he injects her, Zung asks him how he developed the cure. Zung recalls his encounter with Abaddon, and explains that it's thanks to Siyue because she brought back a piece of tissue from a little angel, and it was the mother cell carrying the mutant gene. He explains that they were looking for the temple in the inner sea, and they found it around this location, but they also found that the energy core was just an offering from ancient people to the gods. These so-called gods seem to be linked to the mutant creatures that are now appearing, but before they could make sense of things, they were thrown here. Zung mentions that they may be able to get more information about biological mutants if they could find other energy cores, so Amir says there's an energy core in the ice field, which surprises Zung. Meanwhile, in the thorn forest, the advanced zombies rush to the west side of the forest, and they find several workers frozen in blocks of ice. T09 wonders where all the ice came from, and if they're going against a mutant ice tiger, but the bandaged zombie says she doubts it because the boss already took care of the mutant tiger family a long time ago. T09 suggests they smash the ice and find out, but the bandaged zombie suggests they report what they saw first and come back with reinforcements to be safe. However, T09 suggests they check out what's inside first, so they'll at least have something to report when they get back. Meanwhile, Ghost Eye watches them from afar, which annoys him. Guang suggests they retreat for now because they've alerted the zombies, but Ghost Eye suggests they watch the zombies to see what they're up to since there are only 3 of them. Shortly after, T09 punches one of the ice blocks and it cracks, but she suddenly finds her hand stuck in the ice. The others quickly rush to cut her hands free, but the others mistakenly get other parts of their bodies frozen while trying to set her free. The bandaged zombie immediately insists it's too dangerous and says they need to go back to get backup. Meanwhile, Ghost Eye notices all 3 of them have been crippled by the ice, so he orders his men to get them since they have an opening. He tells them to capture the zombies alive, and shortly after the 3 zombies are apprehended. Ghost Eye jokes that they're not so tough after all, and he says they'll use these 3 as bait to wipe out the entire zombie lair at once. He leaves the zombies in Ling's hands, but Ling suddenly collapses because of the pressure of the worm inside her. Ghost Eye asks her what's wrong with her, so she says she probably tripped. However, she knows it's the worm inside her, and she worries that she might die if she keeps this up. Her only chance of surviving is to send Zung a message through the worm. Meanwhile, in the dark ice field, Amir recuperates after she's given the cure. Zung asks her if she's certain the dark ice field has an energy core, so Guangya says it's not surprising since ancient humans offered energy cores to their god to pray for forgiveness. So the energy cores were likely scattered all over the planet. However, Amir mentions that what they're referring to as energy cores are likely the holy stones from the legends of the Titan tribe. According to these legends, the Titan tribe also offered holy stones as a sacrifice to God. However, the holy stones were soon mined until they were too few, and God was about to bring a divine punishment upon their tribe for that. To save them, a warrior from their ancestors named Galka stepped forward and found the last holy stone. Galka used this stone to forge a sharp sword that could slay a god, and led her people to fight God to the death. Using this sword, she tried to kill God but failed. God's wrath eventually transformed into a long-lasting, unrelenting storm that overtook the entire dark ice field. This storm isolates everything from the outside and has continued till now, and the creatures within the ice field are forever trapped in the blizzard. However, this storm has served as both a protection and a punishment to them. Those inside can't get out, but those outside can't get in either. Apparently, the Snowfield Titan tribe has lived like this in the dark ice field in peace for thousands of years until Zung and his friends entered. Zung wonders how they were able to enter if that was the case, so Amir says the new humans they mentioned have also recently appeared. Suddenly, some members of the tribe rush to inform Amir that the tribe is in danger. Meanwhile, in the dark forest, Yuting fantasizes about Zung, but she suddenly receives a message from the mutant worm mother bug that the 3 she sent out have been captured. She also learns of their plans to use them as bait to get her, so she plans to pay them back for trying to bully a weak woman like her because Zung isn't around. Ghost Eye leads his captives forward, and he exclaims that it's a good idea to capture the zombies because the monsters in the thorn forest aren't even coming near them. He orders his men to stay close to the zombies and avoid monster attacks because they're almost at the zombie lair. Ling notices the pain in her body is reducing, so she figures that the zombies must have received her message. Suddenly, they all become alarmed because the ground starts to shake, so Ghost Eye wonders if the stupid storm is chasing them. Guang soon notifies him of a huge bug towering over them, and they realize they're cooked. The bug knocks the men off their feet with one attack, and they begin to run. The diversion gives the zombies a chance to run, but Ghost Eye tells his men to stay calm and fight. He tells his men to open fire, so they open fire on the huge bug. After the smoke clears out, they realize the bug was unaffected, so they resume trying to escape. However, it's too late because they're soon cornered by Yuting, who stands on the bug's back and asks them where they think they're going. She tells them there's no escaping from this place, and Ghost Eye realizes they're cornered. Soon after, the men are captured, and Yuting says they'll wait for Zung to return so he can deal with them when he gets back. She asks the advanced zombies about the strange ice they encountered, so the bandaged zombie explains that it's a terrifying thing that's at the western part of the forest. Yuting finds that interesting and asks that they lead her there. When she gets there, she sends her metal-eating beetles 2.0 at it and they start breaking it up. She connects to the vision of the insects to see through their eyes and she soon sees a mirage of a sword and a blue dragon. She wonders what she's seeing, but can't make sense of it. Meanwhile, in the dark ice field, Amir and her tribe women struggle to hold the line and not let the new humans break through. The new humans open fire on them, and Guangya tells the warriors to quickly inject the weak titans with the antibodies he provided while they handle the attackers. When the titans are injected, great power breaks through their bodies and they transform into strange beasts. This excites Guangya, and he recognizes it as atavism. He's amazed that beastmen didn't go extinct, but they evolved into the snowfield titans and were trapped in the ice field. Guangya figures that the beastman tribe that used to live on this continent gradually lost their animal characteristics and grew larger in size due to the climate change and the need for survival. He hadn't expected that the tissue genes from the monster would have the ability to cause biological atavism, and he hopes to be able to study it later. Suddenly, they notice a huge explosion happen at the entrance of the village, and they notice some shielded new humans with heavy firepower. Susu says it's no use because the enemies have the advantage of numbers. She takes out some of them, and so does Siyue. But Siyue also admits that they won't be able to hold them back any longer. However, Jiang asks the Titan tribe to join her to fight so they can support the other girls. They soon join the fight and help take down several new humans, but Susu wonders why so many new humans suddenly appeared. She watches one of the Titans, who has gained wings, rain down her feathers on the new humans and take them out. Zheng also joins them and says they can push forward to drive the humans out in one go. He soon rushes to face some of the men and he slashes them with his tentacles. Suddenly, a female human with a huge armor ambushes from behind, and Zheng notices that he feels odd about the sensation of killing the new humans this time. He stabs the lady before they get to him, and he considers it strange that the new humans are also disappearing once they're killed. He wonders what's going on, so he tells the others to leave one of them alive. Jiang notices the humans are starting to retreat, and they won't be able to capture them, which Zheng finds interesting. Meanwhile, the commander notices that the attempt to conquer the Titan tribe has failed, and the clones have been discovered. Dr. Victor finds it annoying that they were discovered so quickly, so the commander says they have no choice but to clone player data since they can't establish a teleportation circle and since they don't have many people right now. He tells Victor she's done really well, but she says the clones still need to be improved because they deal damage that's too low compared to the real players. She also adds that the combat logs from this battle are important experimental data. Suddenly, the commander notices that it's the same zombies from the Thorn Forest that have entered the Dark Ice Field. He lifts up the energy core with him and says these zombies must also have one. Sometime later, the battle ends and members of the tribe gather round a campfire. Suddenly, Zheng is picked up by one of the Titans and Amir places a crown on his head. She says the tribe will now serve him as their master because he saved them and they promise to wait at his command. Suddenly, Zheng spots Rebellion Kid standing nearby and he wonders if he's seeing things and he wonders who brought his main account here. Meanwhile, in the Thorn Forest, Yuting returns to the frozen spot in the cave with frost-resistant metal-eating beetles. She tells the big dragon in the cave to have a taste of the little guys she's developed and sends the beetles charging at the mountain of ice. The beetles start to break up the ice wall until they break through and find the dragon inside. Once inside, the dragon blasts the beetles with its ice-cold breath, but they're unaffected, and they begin to attack it. This causes a storm to rise in the dark ice field, and Amir mentions that the dragon god is angry. Because of this, the members of the tribe quickly bow and make obeisance, but Zheng wonders what dragon god they're referring to. While he's distracted, the commander of the new humans escapes, and Zheng tries to chase him down. Suddenly, he gets a new mission notifying him that the Dark Ice Field's Snowy Mountain dungeon has opened, and he's to tame the ultimate boss of the Snowy Mountain. Zheng realizes he'd have to encounter the dragon god, but it's good news to him since the person impersonating his account also went in that direction. Meanwhile, the commander of the new humans runs into Dr. Victor and asks her what's wrong when he notices she looks worried about something. She explains that although there's signal interference, the base still detected a large band of bioenergy waves from the direction he's heading, so she says it's not wise for him to go there alone right now. Reluctantly, the commander agrees. However, he says that Zheng's team will certainly go to that place if they really have an energy core, and he suggests they sit back and reap the rewards of the impending battle. Meanwhile, Amir and her warriors bring the team to the foot of the mountain. She explains that the Divine Mountain is sacred to their tribe and cannot be climbed, so they can only escort them so far, but she offers to guard the entrance for them. Zheng agrees, so he and his team climb up the mountain. While they're climbing, he notices the snowstorm is getting worse, and Siyue soon starts to sneeze because of the cold. Susu tells her that she's turned on her heating function, and she tells Siyue to hug her to remain warm. Siyue immediately jumps in on the opportunity and nestles her head between Susu's melons, making her uncomfortable. Zeng tells Susu he wants to warm up too, but she refuses. Suddenly, Jiang notices a strange sound, and she tells the others that something is coming. They soon notice a horde of mutant animals running towards them, so Jiang lifts Zeng up with her wings, while Susu carries Siyue. The animals run past them, so they wonder if they're fleeing from something. However, this makes Zeng excited because he believes the dragon god is certainly in the place. When they get to the entrance, they find a magic circle guarding it. So Susu says her analysis shows it's a very powerful one-way prohibition curse that prevents people on the outside from entering. Zeng asks if there's any way to break it, but Susu says the curse is too ancient and there are few records about it. So, he asks if there are other similar prohibition curses, but Jiang rushes forward to punch the barrier while covering her hands with strange energy. This surprises everyone, but the seal turns red and breaks open. Zeng is surprised that the barrier shattered so easily, so Susu asks how that was possible. However, Jiang says it's possible the barrier must have weakened after so long a time, especially since she didn't use much force. They decide to go in, but Jiang stops everyone because the commander of the new humans was heading here, but since they've not run into him, it's most likely a trap. He asks Jiang to stand guard at the entrance just in case the commander tries to take advantage of them. After that, Zeng and the others head inside, and when they get in, they find several of Yuting's bugs. Zeng recognizes Yuting's metal-eating beetles and he wonders why they're here, so Susu suggests they follow the trail of the bugs. After they follow the trail, they find the dragon god encircled by the bugs. The dragon immediately spots them, and when it spots them, they all start floating into the air. Susu wonders what's going on, so Zeng explains that this is the dragon's special ability. They all become dizzy, but Zeng soon finds himself in another place and wonders where he is. When he gets up, he notices a coffin by his side, so he quickly apologizes to whoever is in it by saying he didn't mean to disturb them. He tells the person to blame the dragon if they want to blame someone, but when he looks closer, he sees a drawing of the dragon on the coffin with a female warrior sitting on its back. When he sees the sword in the woman's hand, he figures that this must be the chieftain that fought against God that Amir mentioned. After observing the carvings on the coffin, Zeng is able to deduce the story of how the heroic chieftain, Galka, tamed the dragon and forged the holy sword. Apparently, she died in battle and was laid to rest here. Zeng wonders if the holy sword was buried with her, so he opens the coffin to find out. However, he notices the coffin is empty, and confirms his suspicions that things won't be so simple. When he looks into the coffin, he notices some more inscriptions inside and learns that the holy sword was entrusted to the dragon to keep after the chieftain died. He realizes the dragon has the sword, but he wonders how he'll find it again since he's been separated from Susu and Siyue. While he's lamenting, a metal-eating beetle finds him, which makes him glad because he can follow the beetle because they have a very keen sense of smell. He follows after the beetle and is able to find the dragon shortly after. When the dragon spots him again, he starts to twirl in the air, but he quickly grabs hold of one of the beetles before he's teleported somewhere else again. This time he finds himself in a place covered in ice crystals, and he figures that the way the dragon triggers its skills is through its eyes. He asks the beetle to help him again, so the beetle leads him to the dragon once more. However, Zeng blindfolds himself this time, so the dragon won't be able to teleport him. Suddenly, the dragon tells him he was going to let him leave on his own, but it tells him he's seeking death since he's returned. The dragon immediately tries to bite his head off. Meanwhile, Jiang continues guarding the entrance, but starts to wonder how the others are doing. She suddenly hears a sound, and when she sees someone coming down from above, she worries that it's an ambush. However, it turns out to be Susu and Siyue, who's holding on to her for dear life. Susu tells Siyue to loosen her grip because she can't breathe, but Siyue refuses to because she's afraid of heights. Siyue screams for help, and Susu tries to signal to Jiang to catch them, but it's too late and they just collide with the cold ground. Later, Jiang helps them up and asks how they ended up falling from the sky after they entered the cave. Susu blames the dragon god, so Jiang asks if they're referring to the ice dragon with blue eyes that breathes out a snowstorm. Confused, they ask her how she knows what the dragon looks like since she didn't go in. However, she says she doesn't know either, but images of the dragon have been appearing in her mind ever since she heard its roar. She admits that it's almost like a memory that came with this body she's in. Susu suggests they talk about it later because they need to find Zeng because he's still in there facing the beast alone. While they head in, Jiang warns them to be careful and remains to guard the entrance. She wonders what's going on and what the deal is with this ice dragon. Shortly after, Susu and Siyue appear behind her again, so she asks them how they got out again. Siyue laments that it's like they're trapped in a maze, and Susu says they followed the same path as before, but they ended up here. She guesses that it has something to do with the dragon's spatial ability, because it seems to be changing the position of the correct passage to avoid being disturbed. Siyue asks how they're going to find it, so Susu says it would have been easier if they still had some of Yuting's metal-eating beetles. However, Jiang says she might be able to help out since a beastman's nose and ears are as good as an insect's. Because of that, Susu summons the female Titan cyborg and tells her to stand guard at the entrance while the rest of them head inside. Meanwhile, Zheng keeps battling with the dragon and jumps out of the way before it hits him with its ice attack. Zheng surrounds himself with the aura of the thorn dragon so he can face the dragon squarely. He uses a portal to teleport towards the dragon and get close enough. When the ice dragon sees his dragon, it pours out its ice-cold breath to freeze him. But Zheng retaliates by pouring out fire from his own dragon's mouth. However, the ice dragon manages to freeze Zheng's dragon, causing it to explode. The dragon tells Zheng that his little tricks can't hurt him at all, and Zheng agrees, but explains that he now knows that the dragon's spatial transfer ability can't be continuously used in a short period of time. With that knowledge, he morphs his hands into swords and rushes towards the dragon, because he knows he just needs to act faster before the dragon can use its powers again. When he comes close, the dragon transforms into a woman and says she didn't expect Zheng to be so persistent. She admits that she underestimated him, so she grabs her sword and says it's time to get serious. She asks him if he's ready to die, so Zheng tells her to bring it on. He covers his body in ice armor, but the dragon moves so fast and hits his armor that even his unbreakable ice armor breaks. Zheng realizes that her power level is completely different from before, and the dragon tells him that the next thing she'll shatter is his body. She swoops in to attack him, but Zheng slows down her motion with one of his powers and is able to dodge it, but the tip of his hair gets nicked. She quickly turns around to slash him, but he creates an ice sword around his hand and blocks the attack. They continue fighting in close combat until she breaks Zheng's ice sword. Zheng is amazed by her persistence, but he notices that the light from the energy core on her sword seems off. He soon uses one of his powers to create a dark fog around himself, so she's unable to see him. She warns him that he can't escape just by using these tricks, but Zheng tells her that he got an idea. Since she can use the energy core to increase her power level, he retrieves the crystal with him from the system and decides to use it too. Using his ability called psionic morphing, he morphs the crystal into a metal sword, and the dragon senses his position from the sudden change in energy. She attacks the location of the energy fluctuation, but Zheng charges at her and slams his own sword against her. The impact knocks her sword out of her hands, and she wonders how that's possible. Her sword is driven into a nearby spot, and she also falls by its side because of the strength of Zheng's strike. Zheng holds his sword to her neck and tells her she's lost, so she tells him to kill her already if that's what he wants to do. However, Zheng tells her that she has such a cute face, but her words aren't cute. He holds her chin and says he's not asked for her name, but she tells him he's not worthy of knowing it. Suddenly, someone nearby asks the dragon if her name is Fafna, surprising her. It turns out to be Jiang, who wonders how she suddenly knew that name. Fafna immediately bursts out in tears and refers to Jiang as her master. She tells Jiang that this horrible person was bullying her, pointing to Zheng. Soon after, the others show up, and they wonder where the dragon went and who this girl is. Confused, Fafna asks Jiang if these two ugly freaks are the master's new pets, and Susu almost chops her head off until Siyue subdues her. Zheng realizes that the body of the Beastman chieftain that was lying in the coffin is the body Professor Jiang is in right now, which amuses him. Immediately, Fafna retrieves the sword from the ground and tells Jiang that she has protected it and will now return it to her. When she presents it to Jiang, Jiang explains to her that she's not her master. Suddenly, Fafna notices an intrusion and quickly jumps in the way to block the arrow from hitting Jiang. The arrow lands in her chest and they soon realize they're under attack. Zheng immediately covers everyone with an unbreakable ice shield, and the commander, who had initially attacked them, praises Zheng because he's starting to look the part. Susu wonders how he got here since she positioned the Titan cyborg at the entrance. But she doesn't know the commander has split apart the female cyborg after a battle with her. Meanwhile, in the Citadel of Hope, the zombies rush out, shocked when they find out that the power has suddenly gone out. S01 tells her that the energy core is gone, so Yuting tells her to calm down. She looks for it using her insectoid's shared vision. She soon finds out that Zheng has temporarily taken the core for his own use, so she decides to stabilize the situation until it's returned. Meanwhile, the other zombies are still panicking because the lights went out, so one of them decides to go check what's going on, while some others stand guard. Guang and Ghost Eye are also surprised the light went out, so Ghost Eye says this is their chance to escape. He suddenly grabs Guang by the throat and reminds her what he told her, so she tells him that she remembers and asks that he put her down first. When he drops her on the ground, Guang rushes to the door and calls out for help because Ghost Eye is trying to kill her. One of the guards rushes to help her and chastises Ghost Eye for causing trouble after being captured. Immediately as he opens the door, Guang kicks the guard in the face and tells Ghost Eye he can escape now. He was initially stunned by her performance and eventually commends her commitment. Shortly after, they take down the other guards together and head out. Meanwhile, Zheng protects himself from a barrage of arrows using an ice shield. He realizes that just defending this way is too passive, so he activates his elasticity skill and makes the ice shield bouncy so it redirects the arrows back to the commander. The commander is forced to fight off his own arrows when he sees them coming, so the others take it as a good opening to attack. When they come close, the commander flies into the air just as Zeng jumps up to meet him. Both of them fight with swords in close combat. Siwa and Susu come close to also offer their help, but Zeng notices Susu being attacked by some flying bullets, so he tells her to watch her back. Susu's cyborg radar system soon notifies her that stray bullets have been detected, but she's told that the interference protection has been activated. She finds out that the bullets came from Iron Max and Electric Blade, so she turns towards Iron Max to fight him while Siyu faces Electric Blade. Jiang realizes the enemies are increasing in number, and she has to go help out, but she worries about the child that took an arrow to save her. She rushes to her side to offer aid so she can survive. Meanwhile, Dr. Victor walks up to the sword that Fafnir dropped and takes out the energy core in it. She quickly runs away with the core and notifies the commander that they can retreat since they've gotten their objective. The commander immediately turns around and flies away. Zeng, Susu, and Siyue immediately start chasing them, but Fafnir starts to bleed profusely, so Zeng is forced to stop the chase so he can save her. He goes to her side and thinks about what objects he can get from the system's storage space to save her. He considers using Yuting's Slug of Mending, especially since he still has the ability to share abilities with his teammates. He places the slug on Fafnir, and the bleeding soon stops. Zeng retrieves the bug and commends it for a job well done. The other ladies soon return and explain that the enemies got away. Susu also mentions that she doesn't know what has happened to Electric Blade and Iron Max because their speed seems to have doubled from the last time. She tells Zeng that the new humans are already enhancing themselves quickly. She says she's afraid now that they've gotten another energy core. However, Zeng tells her not to be worried because he knows about the enhancements. He says it's probably related to the enhancement potion Dr. Tai told them about, but he recalls that she said they hadn't fully developed it. As for the energy core they took, he says it's most likely a fake, which surprises the ladies. He explains that when Fafnir took out the Holy Sword, her power increased dramatically, and he thought it was from the energy core. However, when he looked closely, he noticed the glow from the energy core on Fafnir's sword was different from his own. He mentions that he's still confused about the energy cores, because the one he got from Guangya was very big, but it seems to have become a little piece in his hands. Because of that, he got the idea that it's possible that the energy core binds to its master. And the reason the glow was different was that it wasn't unleashing its full power in Fafnir's hands. However, when Zhang, the previous master, came around, the Holy Sword still had no reaction. So, Zeng concludes that he believes that this Holy Sword is most likely a fake, so Susu asks him where the real one is. Suddenly, Fafnir wakes up and says the original is with her. The ladies rejoice because Fafnir is alive, so Fafnir explains to them that her master entrusted her Holy Sword to her for safekeeping, but she never woke up again. Because she was scared she couldn't protect it, she made a fake one and placed it in an obvious spot to distract people. Apparently, the real Holy Sword is sealed in her body, and only her master can draw it out. She places Jiang's hand on her chest, and a magic circle suddenly appears, surprising Jiang. Fafnir asks her to draw the Holy Sword, and when she tries, she's able to pull out the real sword. Meanwhile, in the new human base, the commander becomes angry because they've been tricked. Suddenly, someone appears behind him and asks the commander if he also failed. The commander immediately starts to panic and pleads with the man for one more chance, but the man slices off his head in an instant. The man mentions that it seems they need to strengthen more, and he considers inserting 2 energy cores to make Rebellion Kid even stronger. The man enters into a lab filled with several pods containing several Rebellion Kid characters. In the dark ice field, Zeng and the others leave the cave and they notice a bright ray of light energy hit the ground. When they get out, they notice the giants paying their respects to the god of the sun, who has just returned to grant the sunlight. Zeng wonders who they're referring to. So Fafnir explains that because of the Holy Sword, the frost barrier cut off all contact between the dark ice field and the outside world, and it also robbed the dark ice field of sunlight for many years. Because they took the Holy Sword and dispelled the barrier, the sun's rays have been able to shine on the land, so the giants consider them the god of the sun who has brought them hope. Later that evening, they all sit around a campfire to enjoy some meat. Because the main quest for the dark ice field has been completed, they decide to rest for a day before heading back to the Citadel of Hope. While Zing wonders why he's not gotten any mission rewards, the system congratulates him for completing the Dark Icefield dungeon mission and unlocking a hidden achievement. Apparently, he's been able to receive the title of God of the Sun and has gotten a reward of 50,000 gold coins, an intermediate blind box, and 2 teleportation circles. Zhang asks the system if it couldn't have come earlier and asks why he's just getting 50,000 coins when he worked his arse off for days. He asks what the teleportation circle means, and when he grabs one, he's told that he's set up teleportation circles in the Titan tribe and the Citadel of Hope, so wasteland life forms in his faction will be able to travel between these 2 points. That excites them because it's more convenient, so Siyue asks if that means they can return home immediately. Zung agrees, but says there's something important they need to do first. Meanwhile, some of the Bio-Wasteland players learn that the invisible wall at the edge of the Thorn Forest is gone, which means the game is opening up a new zone. They soon learn from the forums that the closed beta area is now fully open. Immediately, several players rush to the location and determine to take it since they have the advantage of numbers. It turns out that the new zone is the Dark Ice Field, which only the commander's unit had access to before. The players rush towards the gate of the Titan tribe to attack it, but some laser guns pop out from behind the fence, and the players are forced to retreat when the guns start firing. The lasers take them down one by one, and Amir thanks Zung for not only saving them but also providing safe shelters for them. Zung tells her it's right for him to protect them since they're willing to join their faction to fight the new humans, but cries deep inside because he had to spend 20,000 gold coins to get these laser cannons. Shortly after, Zung checks out the game's forums and finds out that several people are complaining about how hellishly difficult the new zone is. Zung realizes his attack was effective, so he decides it's time to head back home with peace of mind. Since he's been able to get 2 energy cores, he believes it's safer to leave them in the Citadel of Hope. They soon leave through the teleportation circle, and Zung is excited to see everyone, only to find the zombies trying to put out a fire that has engulfed everywhere. After putting out the fire, Yuting cries because she's failed him. Zung asks what she means, so she explains that she originally captured Ghost Eye and locked him up to wait for when Zung came back, but they took advantage of the power outage and broke out. They even set fires everywhere to cause chaos so they could escape. Yuting starts to cry because she's failed to guard their home. However, Zung tells her this is his fault because he took the energy core, and he commends her for doing a good job. He tells her that her metal-eating beetles helped a lot in the Dark Ice Field, and he tells her she's amazing because she was able to capture Ghost Eye and his men. Yuting starts to cry because Zung is praising her after all this, so she jumps to hug him. Meanwhile, Fafnir hisses because these country bumpkins, as she calls them, would use a mighty dragon crystal stone as a common power station. Zung asks if she's referring to the energy core, so she explains that the energy core is actually called a dragon crystal stone. The dragon crystal stone is a product of the planet's dragon veins, and it contains the energy of the planet. Apparently, the most abundant source of dragon crystal stones is her homeland, called the Isle of Mist, and the hometown of all dragons. Zung tells her he's never heard of the Isle of Mist, but Guangya says he's heard bits and pieces about it, but only from ancient stone carvings he's seen. Suddenly, the system gives Zung the mission of going to the Isle of Mist and completing the exploration. He's also told that dungeon difficulty has increased, and players need to figure out how to start the hidden mission themselves. Zung wonders why this mission is so vague, but he eventually tells the others he plans to check out the Isle of Mist and asks who wants to join. Yuting quickly opts in and tells him he won't leave her behind this time. However, Susu says the damaged Mecha Titan is still stuck in the Dark Ice Field, and she has to go repair it for now. Jiang says she'll stay in the Dark Ice Field with Susu, because she wants to go figure out the secrets of this body. Since Susu and Jiang are leaving, Zung suggests that Siyue stay back to guard the Citadel of Hope this time. Meanwhile, Yuting celebrates inside because she'll finally get to be alone with Zung since the other third wheels are gone. Suddenly, Zung invites Fafnir with them on the trip, which shocks Yuting. However, Fafnir clings to Jiang and says she wants to stay with her master, but Jiang asks her to help them out since they won't know the way if she doesn't help them out. Because Jiang asks, Fafnir decides to help them out, but that makes Yuting sad because she won't have any alone time with Zung. Guangya also offers to go along with them because it'll be a wonderful opportunity to do some research, and Zung agrees because Guangya is so knowledgeable. Yuting, on the other hand, almost pulls her hair out when she realizes more people are coming. Eventually, they all head south from the newly established port in the Dark Ice Field in search of the Isle of Mist. They soon leave in a ship, while the other ladies tell them to be careful. When the journey begins, Yuting clings to Zung and offers to tell him about the new metal-eating beetle she's developed. She plans not to let the stinking dragon, Fafnir, steal Zung from her, so she quickly makes her first move. Zung figures that she's speaking about the swarm of metal-eating beetles that fought Fafnir in the ice field and weren't afraid of the extreme cold, and Yuting agrees. Fafnir recalls the experience and asks if those annoying flies were her doing, so Yuting tells her it was because Zung's enemy is her enemy. She also tells Fafnir she should be glad she's already joined their faction. Immediately, Fafnir declares that as the newcomer, she'll double her efforts to build her relationship with Zung, and Yuting almost explodes due to anger. She accuses Fafna of being up to no good because she's trying to get Zung, so Fafna asks what the big deal is and says she's even planning to have a dragon egg with him. They both lock horns, and Yuting protests that they're not even the same species. Zung tries to calm them down, but Fafna immediately pecks Zung on the cheeks, and that annoys Yuting, so she kisses him on the other cheek. Meanwhile, the doctor offers the girls his face to fight over too, but they just ignore him and fight one another. However, Zung realizes he's overjoyed because his face is full of kiss marks, so he figures that he's had enough experiences and can die soon. Suddenly, everyone is startled when the ship vibrates, so Guangya tells them that they're being attacked by a giant mutant bird squid, who takes the entire sea as its hunting ground. Fafna tells the squid that it's courting death, so she and Yuting attack the monster at once. The squid runs back into the water, so Zung tells everyone to be careful because they've entered dangerous waters. They eventually continue their journey and encounter a lot of sea monsters on the way, but none of them are a real threat. Their journey continues like this for several days until they reach a place covered with fog. Zung asks Fafna if this means they're close, so she confirms that, but she says she'll stay here for the rest of the journey and they can continue without her. Confused, Zung asks why she's not coming with them, but they're suddenly hit by a blast which Zung has to block. Suddenly, a voice tells Fafna that she dares to return after being exiled, and she's now brought outsiders with her. She becomes distressed, but the voice calls her a traitor to the dragon tribe. Two dragons appear over their ship, and one of the dragons tells Zung that this is not a place where someone like him should set foot in. Fafna suggested Zung that they should just go back, but Yuting says there's no need to be afraid because they can pass as long as they can win the fight. As she prepares to fight, Zung stops her because Fafna's situation will become more difficult if they start a fight. He decides not to act rashly, but he suddenly notices that the dragon tribe seems to have been infected with the virus, and they've mutated. He tells them that they didn't come here to cause a fight, but they're here to investigate some things about the dragon crystal stone. He asks if they can let them check, but the dragons suddenly transform into their female forms and say they wanted to let them leave, but they'll have to come with them now since they've mentioned the dragon crystal stone. Shortly after, Zung and his team are locked up in a dungeon. Zung tells the others things are still good since they've infiltrated and will now be able to find an opportunity. He asks Yuting if she can use her bugs to gather some information, so she sends out a few bugs to look around. Using the insectoid vision, she looks around and comments that she can't see anything because everything is covered in fog. However, it's a good thing because the metal-eating beetle can sense the outside environment through temperature and smell. She finds a large castle that's not surrounded by fog, so Zung tells her to fly in and take a look. When she tries to enter the castle, she realizes she can't because there's a strong barrier blocking her. Using heat detection, she detects that there's something inside that looks round like an egg. Zung asks her to fly down to see if she can get in from under, and she's able to penetrate the castle. When she enters, she spots the two dragons who brought them in. When the two enter, they notify some of the leaders that more outsiders have come to the island, and they add that they followed the exiled traitor to the island because of the dragon crystal stone. One of the leaders says their dragon tribe has suffered a calamity and only their dragon crystal stone can help them. She says the enemy must have decided to attack the dragon crystal stone for this very reason, so one of the dragon guards proposes they go back to kill them immediately. When the other guard hesitates for Fafna's sake, the first guard tells her to keep quiet because Fafna is a traitor. However, one of the leaders says they have to wait for the king's decision because this is a matter about the entire tribe. One other leader mentions that something has already happened to the king, but another silences the first because the king's revival is only a matter of time. There are mixed reactions from everyone in the room, so one of them asks everyone to endure for a while so she can find a way. Suddenly, the leader detects something in the room and she blasts down the beetle. Yuting notifies Zung that they discovered her bug and one of them burnt it to ash. She also tells him she won't be able to cultivate lightning-resistant bugs while they're here. However, she tells him about what they discussed about waiting for the king's decision before they can deal with them. When Yuting mentions that the king is probably dead because the 5 leaders spoke about reviving the king, Fafna says it's impossible because the dragon tribe doesn't die. Rather, their lives are an endless cycle of reincarnation. Apparently, every member of the dragon tribe who reaches the end of their life will metamorphose and turn back into a dragon egg. After a special ritual, they hatch once more, but they lose their memories, except for the Dragon King. Guangya admits that this is the first time he's hearing about the life habits of mystical creatures like the dragon, so he asks for more information about how long they take before reaching the end of their life. Fafna replies that it depends on the dragon's strength, because stronger dragons live longer. Apparently, the king had already lived for nearly 2,000 years as of the time she was still here. Amazed, Guangya asks her how long she's lived, so she says it's a secret. Suddenly, they hear the voice of another person in a different jail. who says Fafnir hasn't been here for so long and she doesn't know that the king she worships hasn't reawakened for almost 100 years. Fafnir recognizes the dragon as Toya and asks her what she's doing in prison. Toya tells her not to shout because they'll be free soon, but Zung wonders what she's talking about. He immediately creates an ice barrier and tells everyone to get behind him, and a random dragon blasts the prison area from outside. Some of the other dragons in the tribe raise an alarm that the rebels are attacking, and they request reinforcements. Meanwhile, the members of the rebel group refer to Toya as their general, and they lament because she suffered these past few days. Toya breaks her chains and tells the group they've come at the perfect time, so she tells them to take the other prisoners away. Meanwhile, Susu sets up a work base in the dark ice field and notifies the Titans that it's a restricted area and they can't enter. Inside the base, she strings up the female Mecha Titan and comments that the cyborgs of this world are very sophisticated. She wishes she could bring back the technology from the game to the real world. In a flashback, some armed robbers hold several people hostage inside a bank, but law enforcement soon has them surrounded. They're told to drop their weapons, but the leader of the robbers threatens to kill the hostages. When they pack up all the gold bars they want, the snipers ask their superiors if they have the permission to fire. However, the superiors are soon notified that the heir to the Zhao Corporation, Susu, is one of the hostages. The Zhao family offers to cover all losses and tells the law enforcement agents not to make any rash moves. The officials decide to let the robbers leave, and because of that, the leader of the robbery squad decides to hold Susu hostage until they escape. When Susu starts to cry out for help, a certain woman swings into action and grabs her from the robbers while they're trying to escape into their van. The angry leader immediately shoots the woman, and she ends up being hospitalized. The woman's name is Li Rulan, a 22-year-old pianist. The bullet severely wounded her arms, and they had to be amputated. Because of that, she was unable to play the piano again. In the present, Susu wishes she can connect Ruolan's hands to the electric signal neurons of the Mecha Titan, so she'll be able to play the piano again. Meanwhile, Jiang tracks down the burial location of the original owner of her body. She decides to lie down in the coffin and see what happens. When she's in, she realizes it's pretty comfortable, but she suddenly sees a vision of someone standing on a mountain, while the beastmen watch from afar. She immediately gets up, wondering what she just saw. But a voice suddenly speaks to her and tells her she's a divine messenger who will bring her a radiant future. In the vision, this divine messenger stands on a heap of several beastmen, and Jiang suddenly remembers that this person is the one who nearly destroyed the beastman tribe. She also remembers that he vanished without a trace after that incident. Meanwhile, the rebel group kidnaps Zung and the others. Yuting asks them if they've not reached their destination yet because her back is killing her, but Zung asks where they're taking them. Toya says they've almost reached the camp where their pioneer unit is stationed. So Zung asks why they're calling themselves pioneers and not rebels. Toya jokes that that is hurtful, and she's reconsidering saving them. She tells him that the dragon tribe lives in an endless cycle, but they lose all their previous memories with each metamorphosis, which is not really different from dying. Zung tells her she's just greedy since that's basically immortality, but Toya says she wants real eternal life instead of false immortality. She suddenly drops them when they reach their location, and Fafnir tells her that eternal life defies the laws of heaven, so what they're doing is very dangerous. When they land, Zung asks Toya why she believes she can change the entire tribe, so she says it's because they're led by a prophet who can see the future of the entire tribe. She says that not a single egg has hatched in over 100 years, and they could become extinct if this goes on, so they have no choice but to take this gamble. Soon after, Toya leads the group to the divine messenger and calls him a prophet. She informs him that these are the new members who wish to join the pioneers, so the prophet asks if this is true. When he turns around, his body is clearly riddled with mutant tissue. He introduces himself as the prophet and says he will bring them a radiant future, so Guangya wonders if this is an angel. Guangya whispers to Zung about the mystical angel-like creature he and Siyue encountered in a strange place. Zung remembers that Guangya had said Siyue bit off a fleshy growth from such a creature, which he made into a potion that caused the Titan tribe to experience atavism. Guangya says these beings are extremely evil, and he wonders if they're connected to this prophet. Suddenly, the prophet overshadows Guangya and asks if he's questioning him, so Guangya panics and says he's not. The prophet mentions that there's an unpleasant aura lingering on Guangya, so Toya asks the prophet if she should kill them. However, the prophet says there's no need because they are just a few pitiful, sad fools. He says that in the cosmos, even planets are just pawns of the god, and who rules this planet is decided in a single thought of the god. He says that it was only by gaining the favor of the god, who granted them wisdom, that humans were able to stand at the top of the food chain even though they had frail bodies. However, humanity reached the top, but they've nearly destroyed the planet's ecosystem, and they've not left a chance for other creatures to survive. Because of that, the god has empowered other creatures and granted them power to contend with humanity and challenge their dominant position. But the arrogant dragons dared to refuse the god's boon. Because of their endless cycling lives, the dragon tribe sealed themselves away in an isolated land and numbed their own subjects. He says that payback has come to the dragon's tribe, and the dragon eggs, formed from their metamorphosis, have gradually lost the ability to hatch. He says it's only by accepting the divine gift of coexisting with a higher-grade gene and receiving infinite life that they can have a future. Zheng pays attention to all this talk of God bringing the mutation virus again, and he wonders if the God he's talking about is the same as the angel creatures the doctor mentioned. He considers provoking him to see what he can find out. So, he asks the prophet if he's saying that the God is now on the side of mutant creatures and he's become an enemy of the new humans just like them. Tuoya asks if mere new humans have the capability of being God's enemies. So Zheng asks why they keep talking about the greatness of this God when they can't even take one small island. He says that it seems that their God can't handle the new humans, so he's just leaving the mess for wasteland life forms to clean up. Since they're finally showing some slight improvements in doing that, their God is going to start bragging that it was all a part of his plan. This annoys Tuoya and the other dragons, so Yuting chimes in by saying their God shouldn't be messing around on this planet alone if he's so great. Their words make the prophet laugh, so he says it seems there's still much they don't know. Tuoya explains that the dragon race has always been the race with the highest combat strength since the birth of the planet. Apparently, if the king of the dragons had not gotten tired of war and brought his people to this island, the world would have belonged to the dragon's tribe forever. She says the former dragon king also forbade his compatriots from interfering with conflicts of the outside world and exiled those who did forever. Tuoya tells Fafnir that it's clear she also knows the king's hatching has already failed, so she still has a chance to come back. When Fafnir hesitates, Zheng jokingly tells her this is great because it means she can return, but he comes close and tells her they should wait to see what this group is up to first. Fafnir decides to play along, so she says she's willing to join because the plan makes sense. Excited, Tuoya jumps to hug her and welcomes Fafnir home. Immediately, the prophet offers to personally perform the initiation ritual for them. Meanwhile, in the new human base, 2 experiment specimens named number 0097 and number 0065 test out their new fire and water powers. Dr. Victor watches their practice session and records that the new experiment is a success because the new test subjects have completely mastered elemental power. She realizes that the method of extracting elemental power from energy cores really works. Apparently, the drugs they extracted before had too many side effects, and using the energy cores directly as a power source wasn't good enough. It's clear to her that only the dragon tribe, masters of alchemy, know the true purpose of energy cores. However, she believes they'll soon be able to crack the secret of the energy cores, and the new humans will possess power to rival the dragon tribe. Meanwhile, Amir battles with the repaired Mecha Titan. She punches the Mecha Titan, who quickly blocks the attack. Immediately, Amir activates her beastification, and her limbs transform into a beastly form. Using her claws, she slashes the Mecha Titan in the back, so the cyborg system declares that hardware damage has been detected and it has to activate a strong defense mechanism. The cyborg system activates its defense to the max and starts to initiate self-repair, protecting the cyborg with a barrier while the repair happens. The Mecha Titan system soon restores its neural signal system and completes its repair. When it gets back into action, Susu declares that the experiment is over and she commends everyone for their work. Amir asks Susu how the results were this time, so Susu says the repair time was 5.8 seconds, which is 3.3 seconds faster than the last time. Amir tells her that her hard work for the past few days wasn't wasted, so she can finally rest well, and Susu agrees. Susu replies that all she needs to do now is to go back and handle the neural connection for the human head and mechanical components based on what happened. Confused, Amir asks if she's referring to going back to the Citadel of Hope they all mentioned. So Susu becomes shocked when she realizes that Zheng hasn't told her how to get back. Amir immediately tells her she can use the teleportation portal to get back to the Citadel, but Susu tells her not to worry about it. Later that evening, Susu confirms that the construction of their base in the Titan tribe is almost done. She also notices that the Mecha Titans and the Titan tribe are getting along well to do the construction work, so she decides it's time to go back to the Citadel of Hope to check on things. Suddenly, she detects an unidentified flying object approaching, so she panics because aerial battleships can enter now that the snowstorm barrier is down. Suddenly, Iron Max announces that he'll blast this place to the ground. He soon opens fire, so Susu activates the emergency defense system. After Iron Max rains down fire on the place, he releases some of his Iron Girls to finish the job. Meanwhile, Susu identifies them and deploys her Mecha Titans, since this is a good time for them to get some real combat practice. Iron Max tells his girls to keep blasting the Lair's defense system, so Susu notices that the area's defense is about to fail because the attacks are too focused. She immediately orders all her units to activate their strong defense system and protect the Titan tribe. Susu realizes this isn't good timing, especially because her body is at its limits too. Meanwhile, in the Citadel of Hope, two people approach the entrance and pretend to come switch shifts with the guards. The unsuspecting guards let them take over the shift and don't pay attention until the men slice them in half. The two intruders turn out to be Guang and Ghost Eye. In a flashback to half a month ago, Guang suggests to Ghost Eye that they take advantage of the chaos and escape. However, he says there's no need to escape because they can just hide here and wait for an opportunity. Over time, they spent time blending in with the zombies, and they observed that the zombies are a group without a leader right now, and the toughest ones aren't around. He believes the only one left is the dumbest one, so it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In the present, Ghost Eye tries to enter the city, and he promises to end every monster in the city. He calls Electric Blade for reinforcement, and she also shows up with her girls. Meanwhile, the Prophet welcomes Fafnir back home and begins her baptism ritual. Before the Prophet grabs her, Zheng holds his hand and jokingly asks what this baptism involves, so the Prophet tells him it includes implanting the genes of the god into her, just like he guessed. Zheng looks at the other dragons infected with the mutant virus, so he suggests they handle the prep work first before rushing to the baptism. He turns around and asks Toya to help prepare a place for them to sleep first since they're new here. Suddenly, the Prophet chases them with an extension of the mutant virus, but Zheng blocks it with a morphed shield. This annoys the Prophet, so he calls them stubborn heathens. The mutant tissue on the Prophet's body starts to multiply, so Zheng warns the others to stay away from the weird growths. The Prophet calls him rude for calling this weird and says this is a form bestowed by the god as he reaches out to catch them with his tentacles. Meanwhile, Toya leaps over Zheng and tries to slash him to make him keep quiet. However, Fafnir stops her and tells her to take on someone of her own tribe. Immediately, Toya performs a half-dragon transformation and asks Fafnir if she's betraying the dragon tribe again. But Fafnir also activates her half-dragon transformation, brings out her sword, and tells Toya her group is the real traitor to the dragon tribe. Both ladies engage in close combat and fight mid-air, so Toya tells her subordinates to capture the traitors. Immediately, the other dragons swing into action and turn their focus to Yuting. However, Yuting excitedly tells them she's been holding back for a long time, and she releases her beetles because she can finally go all out. She releases her beetles at the dragons, stopping them from flying properly. Meanwhile, Fafnir lands an attack on Toya's hand, but mutant tissue immediately comes out of the wound and seals it up. Fafnir can't believe her eyes, so Toya boasts that this is the power bestowed by God, and they can gain this power if they join them. Also, the metal-eating beetles suddenly start exploding and dropping down, shocking Yuting, so Guangya guesses it might be an immortal body granted by the mutant virus. The Prophet tells them they're as insignificant as ants in the face of divine power, and he grabs Zheng with his tentacles and pulls him toward his mouth. He tells them to stop their pointless struggle and accept the divine gift. Suddenly, the other dragons from the dragon tribe show up and start to attack the mutated dragons. They tell Fafnir and the others to escape, while the leaders of the tribe rain their attacks on the spot. Zheng watches in awe and wonders if this is the elemental power of the dragon tribe. When they return home, Fafnir asks them if they've finally accepted her back, so the leaders tell her that the reason they rescued her is that they need something she has. Apparently, they need her blood to awaken the king. Zheng asks if the king they're referring to is the egg that's upstairs, so they confirm this. They explain that the situation at the Isle of Mist is grievous because the dragons have been infected with a strange virus, and they're all relying on the power of the dragon crystal stones to resist the virus eating away at their bodies. Apparently, the king has been asleep for 100 years, and their tribe's subjects are nearly completely destroyed. The only way to awaken the king is with dragon blood, so he can lead them to reconstruct their bodies and purify their blood. But they are unable to awaken the king because their blood has been polluted. So they now have to rely on Fafnir, who still has pure dragon blood because she was exiled from the island years ago. Meanwhile, in the Dark Ice Field, Iron Max keeps raining attacks on the base's defense barrier. The Mecha Titans also blast the Iron Girls, but they block their attacks with their respective shields. Eventually, Susu releases a large-scale attack on the Iron Girls at once, so they join their shields together to create a large barrier to protect themselves. Susu is surprised that they've evolved so quickly. Meanwhile, on the ship, Iron Max rejoices because the potion Dr. Victor made for them is the real deal. He rejoices that they're going to take down these monsters once and for all. Below him, the Iron Girls retaliate and launch their attacks at Susu. Her cyborg system detects a high-intensity impact, so it activates a localized defense reinforcement to protect her. Susu realizes that things aren't looking good because the enemy's attack is way too heavy and most of their power is being diverted to the defense system. She realizes they can't hold out much longer and notices some of her Mecha Titans being taken down by the Iron Girls. While that's happening, Iron Max decides this is his chance to attack Susu from behind because she's wide open. He jumps in and attacks her, guns blazing, shattering her shield with the impact. With her shield taken down, he tells his girls to attack, so they chase Susu. All the Iron Girls attack Susu at once, so she starts to fall to her death. However, Susu is suddenly caught by Jiang, who has just returned from her exploration. Jiang asks her where the Titan tribe is, so Susu tells her that the Titan tribe defense system is active, and attacks from the outside can't get in, but the Titans are trapped inside too. To gain the upper hand, Jiang tells her to drop the defense and strike with everything they've got, but Susu protests that the Titan tribe will be destroyed. Jiang explains that they will all die here anyway if they keep focusing all their energy on defense. Upon hearing that, Susu changes her mind and tells all units to deactivate defenses and attack with full force. The Mecha Titans immediately take down the defense system, so the Titans transform into their beast forms and charge into fight. Meanwhile, Susu orders her Mecha Titans to clear a path for the Beastmen and Titans by seizing the warship. The Mecha Titans immediately start attacking the Iron Girls, so the other Iron Girls realize that Lord Iron Max is the target. When the Titans get close to Iron Max, he realizes he's cooked, so he rushes to use a secret move. Meanwhile, Electric Blade and her girls start taking down zombies, but Siyo jumps out to confront her. Siyo kicks her from behind, but Electric Blade jumps out of the way. Immediately, Siyo attacks her with one of her monstrous tentacles, but Electric Blade swallows an evolution potion and prepares to show her what power looks like. With one slash, Electric Blade slashes the tentacle, surprising Siyo. Somehow, Guangya stands nearby and notices something strange about the potion that Electric Blade just consumed. He immediately tosses an energy crystal at Siyo, who immediately eats it, causing violent power to reverberate through her body. Meanwhile, in a flashback, Fafnir remembers how the only thing she's known since birth is the mist-filled island. The only thing she learned to survive was alchemy and how to fight. However, one day, she stumbled upon a secret, that the world is more than the Isle of Mist. That amazed her, and she started to yearn for the world beyond the island. However, there was a rule that the outside world is prohibited for them, and any dragon who tried to leave the island faces the death penalty when they return. However, when they die, they're made to forget the memories of their previous life and start all over again. Because of this, Fafnir buried these thoughts deep within herself so that no one would know, until the day that Tuoya suggested to her that they see the outside world together. Fafnir immediately rebuked her by asking what nonsense she's talking about, but Tuoya tells her to stop pretending because she's caught her always reading the notes that came to their island through a bottle. Tuoya tells her that there's nothing wrong with being curious about the outside world, and she mentions that the ban is weird. She wonders why they go as far as taking away their memories to stop them from going out without giving them a good reason. Tuoya calls out to two other dragons that are hiding nearby and tells them to stop hiding because she knows they followed them here because they're also curious about the outside world. It turns out to be the two guards who will apprehend Zeng and his team years later when they visit. One of them says she heard the outside world is dangerous, and they won't be able to come back if they ever leave. After that time, they agreed on a plan, and they escaped the Isle of Mist, and Fafnir is amazed by how beautiful the outside world is. However, the two other ladies mention that the outside world seems to be nothing but ocean, so the other one suggests they sneak back while it's still early so they won't be caught. However, Tuoya reminds them going back means death and says they only got the chance to escape because the king is in seclusion. Suddenly, Fafnir notices that she hears something beyond the ocean, so Tuoya flies up and notifies the other ladies, Nuosha and Yisha, to come up with her to check the situation, while Fafnir remains on the ship to support them. Suddenly, the others notice a raging tsunami that's heading straight for the Isle of Mist, so Yisha suggests they head back and warn the others so they won't be in danger. However, Tuoya disagrees since they only have one chance to leave, and the king will have a way to deal with this. But Yisha says she feels this tsunami is different from the usual, and the king is in seclusion, and Nuosha says they may be able to atone for their crimes if they warn the others. While they're arguing, Fafnir wonders why the others are arguing, but the ship she's in is suddenly overtaken by the tsunami. Before they can get to her, the tsunami drowns the ship, with Fafnir still in it, and the others are unable to save her. Sometime later, Fafnir is woken by a beast woman, Galka, who later became her master. In the present, the leaders tell Fafnir that the king exhausted all his power to fend off the strange tsunami and metamorphosed into an egg shortly after. Yisha and Nuosha came back to report it, but the death penalty was still carried out on them. Even though they were executed, that didn't stop the virus from the outside world from invading, because they later hatched with the mutant genes. From that point onward, the virus infected the entire dragon tribe, and it would have been easy for the king to rewrite the dragon tribe's gene to resist it, but he never woke up after that time. Meanwhile, Zeng considers the strange tsunami, the death of the king while defending his people, and then the virus that destroys after being brought back from the outside world. He believes all of this is too much to be a coincidence. Shortly after, they decide to start the king's reincarnation ritual, so everyone other than Fafnir is asked to leave the room. Fafnir is eager to do something for her homeland, so she cuts her hands to shed some blood on the king's egg. However, Nuosha and Yisha suddenly come to knock the blades out of her hands and steal the egg. In a flashback to the past, the ocean's waves carry Fafnir far away, and the others are unable to help her. Nuosha and Yisha wonder if Fafnir can hatch again if she ends up in the ocean, so they decide to return immediately so the tsunami doesn't destroy the Isle of Mist. Toya mentions that they can't outrun the speed of the tsunami, but they suddenly notice the water form into a strange shape. On the structure, the face of the divine messenger appears, and he manifests out of the tsunami. They wonder what this thing is, but it suddenly binds them with a strange energy from the water. Soon after, the being tells them not to be afraid and introduces himself as the prophet who has come to save them. In the present, Yisha and Nuosha tell Fafnir that accepting the genes bestowed by the god is the path that the dragon tribe must take. Fafnir tells them they've been deceived by the prophet, but the leaders of the tribe stop Fafnir from risking herself by battling with these people since she's the last hope of the dragon tribe. They immediately strike Nuosha and Yisha with their elemental powers, but they're all suddenly stabbed in the back by the rebel group. The guards immediately swing into action upon noticing the enemy, so Toya tells the elders that it's been a while. She explains that Nuosha and Yisha faked their deaths and returned just for the egg of the king. Nuosha admits that they really made them look hard for the egg. Suddenly, Fafnir rushes in to strike Toya, but Toya attacks her with the bones she stabbed the elders with. As Fafnir tries to dodge, Zung immediately blocks the attack with his shield, so he tells her not to panic because they're here. Yuting soon releases her beetles in the air and says her little bugs haven't tasted dragon meat yet. Zung tells them that with the lesson learned from last time, he won't let anyone snatch anything right from under his nose a second time. Meanwhile, Iron Max triggers an explosion in the sky, injuring and knocking down some of the mecha titans. He transforms the ship into some sort of mega robot and sits in command to control it. Confident in his power, he demands that they all die and tries to smash the city with the robot's hand. However, he's shocked when he's unable to strike the city, so he realizes several of the titans are pushing against his robot's fist. He decides to add more force to crush them, and Jiang realizes the cyborgs won't be able to hold Iron Max for long. She wishes she had the sword that she returned to Fafnir, but the sword suddenly appears, and she's surprised that it can appear just by thinking of it. Wielding the sword's power, she immediately takes down several of the Iron Girls and flies past Iron Max's robot to end him. When Iron Max spots her, he wonders what he's seeing, but it's too late because she soon strikes several parts of the robot from top to bottom. Iron Max can't believe his eyes, but his robot starts to split apart right before his eyes, exciting Jiang and Susu. The Iron Girls become shocked when they realize their lord lost, so they quickly try to escape, but they're suddenly struck down and their armors come off. Meanwhile, in the Citadel of Hope, great power pours through Siua's body after she consumes the crystal. Her aura suddenly changes, so Ghost Eye and Ling become shocked by how monstrous and big she becomes. Ling immediately tells Ghost Eye they should try to escape because something isn't right, but Electric Blade replies that there's nothing to be afraid of because Siu only got a little bigger. Electric Blade tells her girls to wear Siu down first, so they swing into action. As they rush towards Siu, the advanced zombies notice they're focusing all their power on Siu, so they decide to go clear a path for Siu. They immediately take down several of the reinforcements that were brought, while Siua focuses on taking down the girls who tried to attack her. Suddenly, Electric Blade jumps towards Siu to finish her off while she's distracted. Siue spots her and almost stabs her with her tentacle, but Electric Blade quickly dodges. When she spots an opening, she launches at Siu with her blade covered with fire, but Siu swallows the fire. While Electric Blade is shocked, Siu pours out the flames she swallowed back at her attacker, forcing Electric Blade to slightly retreat and block with her swords. Regardless, she promises to take down Siu with her, so she tells all her remaining girls to attack Siu at once. However, Siu stabs all the girls with her tentacles, so their attack is rendered useless. She also extends her tongue and uses it to grab Electric Blade, whom she promptly swallows. When the other girls realize their boss got swallowed, they immediately start running, but Siu reaches out to have them for dessert. Meanwhile, Ling urges Ghost Eye that they need to retreat, and he has no choice but to comply. As the destruction continues in several parts of the city, the advanced zombies figure that Siu is out of control, and they wonder who will stop her so she doesn't destroy the entire city. Suddenly, Dr. Tai throws some roasted chicken at Siu, and that catches her attention. Suddenly, the chicken starts to nauseate Siu, so she starts to vomit. Apparently, Tai had put a substance that induces vomiting and dispels toxins in the chicken. Soon after, Siu vomits out Electric Blade and she soon returns back to normal size. Meanwhile, Zung engages in close combat with Toya. Suddenly she circles behind him, but Zung spots her and asks if they only know how to fight with sneak attacks here. He tells her the dragon tribe will be doomed if its future fell in their hands, and he stabs her in the chest using one of his tentacles. However, her wound starts to heal immediately, and she says that the process they're taking doesn't matter as long as the result is what they want. However, she says that Zung won't live to see the day their dreams come to pass, and she starts attacking him again. She tells him that the genes of the gods are extremely domineering, so they control their thoughts. But, because the old elders use the dragon crystal stones to stop the spread of the god genes, the physical regeneration speed of the other dragons isn't as fast as theirs. She also adds that some dragons will also defect to them because they won't be able to resist the temptation of an immortal body. Zung considers what she said, and realizes that the virus's physical regeneration ability causes it to spread further, causing normal dragons to lose their minds and turn into enemies. He tells Tuoya she's right, but he's not alone, so he gives space to one of Yuting's megabugs to slash one of Tuoya's girls in half. Zung tells Fafnir and the other dragons to withdraw from the battlefield, and he asks that they hide far away. They soon leave, but ask Zung to be careful. After they leave, Zung and Yuting decide to work together to take down the dragons, which excites Yuting. Meanwhile, in the dark ice field, the Iron Girls are knocked to the ground, and they suddenly start to turn pale. Susu realizes that Iron Max is absorbing their life force to repair his robot. Inside the robot, Iron Max determines within himself not to lose this time. Susu notices the giant robot is also devouring Iron Max's life force too, and they seem to have merged into one. Iron Max blasts Siue and Jiang with some explosives, so Jiang steps forward and tells Susu to quickly get behind her. When the blast hits them, both of them are left unscarred because Jiang's energy absorbed the energy from the attack. Jiang figures that the sudden energy boost of Iron Max's robot must also be from an energy core since her sword's energy core can absorb it. She immediately notifies Susu and asks her to help find the location where the most energy is concentrated on the robot. Susu immediately detects it and shows it to Jiang. Suddenly, Jiang has a very strange feeling, and the power in the energy core causes her to transform into one of the giant beastmen. The Titans watch in awe because Jiang has transformed into one of their ancestors, but Jiang is surprised by her own transformation. She wonders if she evolved because of the amount of energy absorbed by the energy core, so she decides to leverage her new strength to destroy Iron Max. However, Iron Max refuses to back down and tries to punch her, but she easily dodges it. She soon gets close and finds an opening, then pushes the sword deep into the robot, causing a part of it to explode. The impact of the attack bores a hole in Iron Max's heart, and he's shocked when he realizes he's lost. He soon begins to panic as he watches the robot destroy his body while trying to repair itself. The entire robot soon explodes, but Jiang feels a sudden pain after jumping down and she starts coughing out blood. She wonders if it's a backlash from the energy absorbed by the Holy Sword, so Susu rushes to help her after she collapses. Meanwhile, in the Isle of Mist, Toya tells Zung that because their warriors possess true immortal bodies, the genes of the gods will repair any missing flesh from their wounds. Immediately, the body of the dragon he sliced in half starts to join back together, so Zung asks Toya if she's heard of a meat grinder. She wonders what he's talking about, so he goes into a rampage and starts slicing up the dragons because he wants to see where the limits of these god genes she's speaking about reach. As he chops up Toya's warriors, he asks her if there's any relationship between the speed of recovery and the size of the chopped pieces. He also asks if the flesh of an immortal can be digested after being eaten, so he has the huge beetle bite off the head of one of the dragons. Yuting chimes in and says she's also curious to see if their regeneration is faster than the speed at which her little beetles eat. Immediately, one of the dragons starts to panic and calls Zung a demon, and says what he's doing is worse than death. Meanwhile, Zung continues his experiment and confirms that the speed of regeneration slows down when they're chopped up into little bits. He wonders if the chopped up piece can regenerate back into its original form, but he soon sets it ablaze before it can begin transforming to see what happens. After Toya gets tired of listening to him, she jumps forward to attack and tells him not to be too cocky. However, Zung asks her if she will be more resistant to chopping than the others were since she's their leader. Toya becomes distressed by the sudden change in Zung's aura, so she wonders if he was hiding his strength all along. Suddenly, he knocks her bone sword out of her hands. Meanwhile, the other dragons that are still alive are shocked when they notice that the dragons Zung incinerated didn't metamorphose into dragon eggs and reincarnate, but rather turned into dragon crystal stones.
Guys, that's the end of the video. If you liked this video, please leave a comment in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Like the video and share it too. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.